my favorite things about this story in particular is it makes me question Batman.
Right.
Yes.
Why aren't you doing anything about this?
Right.
It makes me question that character's morals. Is your way the right way of doing this?
All right. Welcome to another episode of Only Comics. I'm Mike. This is Adrian.
Good morning.
That's
Good
not
morning.
Adrian. That's
right?
Adrian.
Right.
You spoiled the surprise. Hey, and this is Chris.
Yeah. Hey,
Hello.
this is Chris.
Hello. Yeah.
Those of you, eagle-eyed viewers that were with us since episode 1 may recognize Chris. Chris was here from the beginning, and then he's been a little busy creating his own comic book. So this will be our first artist spotlight we ever have on Only Comics. So
There you go.
and Chris is going to be with us for the whole ride today.
Absolutely.
So, Chris, we have a segment here on Only Comics called Newsflash, buddy. And the reason we call it that is, you'll understand this because you're my complexion here. Our people sometimes, right, when they're being challenged or when they're upset and, they're about to lay down some news, they're going to let you know. They say a little phrase, and it goes like this. They go, "Newsflash, buddy." You've probably heard someone
Buster.
say that. Yeah, Buster. Yep, that's another thing. There you go. Dude, Buster could be like Buster of the week.
I like that. I like
that too.
Hey,
so who's going to be
Buster.
our Buster this week? So it's kind of like, some radio shows have Donkey of the Week, stuff like that. So we go through the, comic news, a few articles here, and we'll go through them, and we get to pick who our Buster is this week.
Okay.
But we use that because that's what they say. You've heard that
Yeah.
before.
Oh yeah.
And
Let me tell you something, buddy.
Yeah, that too, buddy, pal, all those things. So, up first this week in our news segment, Tim Burton has made some interesting comments about WB and DC movies. So, you've not seen The Flash.
I have not.
That's
no.
a good thing, right?
Yeah.
Right. It's probably a good thing. Even though at this point, kind of sick of the Flash.
Yeah, right.
I'm kind of sick. But anyway, we'll get into it.
Yeah.
Well, sounds like Tim Burton is as well.
Right.
So Tim Burton. Now, I'm a big fan of Batman '89. Batman Returns is one of my favorite movies. Right. Adrian, what about you? I know you lean more towards the Bale.
Yeah, no, I got a pun later on about Tim Burton's Batman, but no, I'm definitely Christian Bale Batman. I wasn't fond of the Tim Burtons or definitely the Michael Keaton thing, so I'm good with all that.
What about you, Chris?
Actually, I'd rather go back to Adam West than to go to
really?
Tim Burton.
Okay, Adam
I am
West.
good, dude.
I like Burton's Batman.
Yeah.
I will say Bale's my favorite. The older I get, the more those movies, like as a set, have aged super well.
Right.
But Burton's Batman has a place in my heart as like the perfect, like, I don't want to say cartoony, but the fun Batman.
Yeah.
From that time period.
It's a little out there.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah, and it was kind of like your introduction, or at least for me, it was kind of like my first Batman movie and everything, and I was like, it was. So I like the universe. I would say that he built around it.
Right. So you would probably not like the portrayal in The Flash because it doesn't feel like that universe.
No, well, I don't even want to go. I'm going to give our guest the opportunity to talk about it because, dude, I'm just so done with that.
So now Tim Burton is upset. Well, he made some comments in a recent interview, and he didn't call out The Flash specifically, but what he said, actually, I'll read it. He said this to the British Film Institute. When you work on, he's talking about the Superman movie. So Superman Lives was a movie he was working on with Nick Cage.
Right.
Superman.
Yeah.
Which, who knows how it would have turned. I mean, I don't know. To your point of the whole universe, I think Tim Burton would have done a good job of giving us like a really cool version of Superman.
Yeah.
But have you ever seen the photos of Nick in this?
I have.
Okay, yeah.
I have. Yeah. So I do have that frame of reference.
Yeah.
I can see where he's going with it.
Yeah, so I mean that I didn't care for where I thought he was going with it. I mean, and Adrian, we got to see this at the end of The Flash. There's a little CGI cameo with the Nick Cage Superman.
Okay.
Which is.
All right.
Adrian, is that your favorite part of the film?
No, there's no favorite part of this film for me.
When it was over.
Yeah, except the fact that it's over. The closing credits, which I got up and walked out of, that was my favorite part of the movie.
Yep, absolutely. So, well, anyways, they were asking Tim Burton about this movie. He says, when you work that long on a project and it doesn't happen, it affects you for the rest of your life because you get passionate about things, and each thing is an unknown journey. And Superman Lives wasn't there yet, but it's one of those experiences that never leaves you a little bit. But then he goes on, but also it goes into another AI thing, and this is why I'm over it with the studio. They can take what you did, Batman or whatever, and culturally misappropriate it to whatever you call it, even though you're a slave of Disney or Warner Brothers, they can do whatever they want. So in my latter years, I'm in quiet revolt against all of this.
Wow.
Yeah.
I read that. I was like, good for you, Tim Burton.
Right?
Good for you, man, because they do that kind of stuff. I mean, you have this idea, they hire you to do this thing, and then they just kind of take over and just run over you.
Right.
It's like I've always coined this phrase, right? My idea isn't a good idea until it's your idea.
Yeah. Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So somebody comes in and they take over the things that you've developed, you've created, and you start this momentum, and then someone snatches away from you.
Yeah.
So good for him for talking out.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was one of my points with I haven't seen The Flash, but I knew they were putting Michael Keaton back in it, and I didn't want that because that movie exists. Batman '89 exists for me in like a certain spot,
Right.
Right.
in a certain place. That character exists here, and I don't want to revisit that because I don't want that memory to change.
Yeah.
You know?
Right. Besides the fact that he's too old to be doing what he was doing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And Chris, that's always been one of my things about all this stuff. You know, we have so many new up and coming actors and actresses. You know, give them a shot.
Yeah.
If you keep resurrecting these demons from the past, you know, these kids will never get, you know, the spotlight and stuff, you know. And some of these people, they come out and they own this stuff, but now because comics is like the new thing, you know, all these old, you know, crypt keepers want to come in and take over the spotlight, and I think it's unfair.
Yeah.
Right. And I get it. I mean, like, you're an artist, Chris. Imagine your take on it, because I get it. Tim Burton didn't create Batman. But that Michael Keaton Batman is his take on Batman.
Yeah, yeah.
And he had his 2 films, and then he got pushed out over some bullshit, you know, because the McDonald's, you know, Happy Meals were too dark for the kids. So then they brought in Joel Schumacher and screwed everything up.
Yeah.
So we never got to see, you know, Tim Burton's trilogy of Batman movies. But that was his take on it, and to see that, you know, his version just kind of plucked out of, like, I agree with you where that Batman lives in a whole other universe for me.
Yeah.
Like that gothic, like, I love his take on Gotham.
Yeah.
You know, it would be cool to see what he would have done with the technology we have today.
Right, yeah.
Because it was limited, you know?
I mean, imagine like the most recent Batman movie, Gotham City.
Oh, my God.
In juxtaposition with Tim Burton's Batman.
Yeah.
You know, those are 2 very different worlds.
Right.
But they both exist in my head in that place.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I don't like 1989 Batman being ripped out of continuity and then thrown into now.
Right.
It's like, well, it feels weird.
It does.
It feels weird. And it does feel like, especially when you've worked on a project for so long, you probably has good memories of that and everything.
Right.
To see that manipulated in a way, I can totally understand his frustration with that.
Yep. So I'm Team Tim Burton here, dude.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, next up, Aquaman 2. This is a movie that now, did you see the recent trailer?
I did.
Yeah.
I did. I'm afraid for the movie coming out. I know the first one did what I was surprised. I mean, I knew it did
$1 billion,
well.
right?
Right. It was $1.15 billion.
So remind me. So Aquaman, the new movie, right?
Yep.
So is this still in the continuity of like Ben Affleck's Batman?
Yes.
Does it still
Yes.
exists in that?
It's the last movie of that cinematic universe.
Right, because they're already switching over.
They're already switching over.
So what's the point? Wait, so I thought the Flash was going to be the end of that.
No, I think Flash is the beginning of the new thing.
The beginning
right?
of the new one, but we're already okay.
So it's a lot. It's a lot to take in.
Yeah.
It's confusing, which is why I think DC is doing kind of a shitty job of this. It's too much. So you go between the end of the first and the beginning of the next, and then you got the multiverse kind of a thing going on. Then you got these, like you said, the '89 Batman, the 2003 23 Batman, and this freak of Flash that we got going on. So it's just a lot, and they're just kind of muddying the waters all around.
Yeah, it's so confusing for like a casual audience member.
Exactly.
I think I've said it before. Like, imagine trying to go with your dad and explain who all these characters, why there's 3 Batmen in this one movie, right? And he's supposed to be a casual audience member and just go in and understand everything.
Right. Yeah. And forget about the TV version versus the movie version versus the animated version. I mean, that's a whole nother different kind of confusion. But
Now, I've never seen Aquaman, the first one.
No?
No, which I actually do want to watch it now. But after this last trailer, I'm like, this looks like a pretty good movie.
Yeah. Yeah, but I'm afraid having seen the first movie because it did so well.
Yeah.
And I'm already seeing that button on the comic thing going on. I'm watching this trailer and I'm thinking this is probably the best parts of the movie.
Yeah.
And that the movie itself is probably going to not be as entertaining.
Oh my God.
I hope I'm wrong though.
Editors for comic book movies, like whoever they hire for their trailers is insane. Like, I don't know if it's one guy, if it's multiple guys, but
It's probably the same guy.
Whoever they have working on trailers for all of them across the board is
Right.
doing a great job because everyone feels so immense.
Yeah.
Right.
So powerful.
Right.
You know, no matter
Right.
what the characters, even Aquaman.
Right.
You know?
And then when you get there, though, then the movie sucks. Or like you said, it's like they showed you all the best parts.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the old Fast and Furious recipe, right?
Right.
Give the whole movie away in the trailer, and then go watch it like, wait a minute, like, what else?
Yeah.
We already
Right,
saw all
right.
this.
Right. Well, we missed them eating breakfast.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
what's going on?
Yeah. Or you could do the James Gunn effect where you just slow it all down in the movie. You know,
Yeah.
it's like, we take this 2.5.
Slow-mo.
Yeah, the whole movie's going to be slow-mo. It's like, dude, what's the difference between Snyder Cut and the regular cut? One's just really slow.
Right. We spent 15 minutes on watching the valve of the tire spin from from 12 o'clock to 6 o'clock.
But so Aquaman, why is it in the news? So Aquaman 2's director, who, you know, speaking of Fast and Furious, James Wan, I think he directed the 7th one, maybe 8th, but anyways, he's also known horror director, James Wan. He's directing Aquaman Lost Kingdom for some reason. And he broke his silence on the question that everyone has, I guess, is will Batman be in this movie too? Why not? Like, just put Batman in everything,
let's
right?
just throw him in there.
At this point,
You want to
dude,
sell tickets? Batman's going
Exactly.
in the movie.
Exactly.
I mean, shit, Marvel, throw him in the Marvels if you want. Why not? You know, just Batman everywhere, you know? I mean, it was Batman Day this past weekend.
Yeah,
so.
Right. Well, there's
Happy late
that.
Batman Day.
Yeah, happy late Batman Day to all our viewers out there. Now, so what he said about this was, number one, he said the tricky thing early on was not knowing whether Aquaman would come out first or after the Flash. So there you go.
Yeah, that's tricky. We don't know about this one.
Right.
Let's just try it.
Right.
It'll come out at some point. But to your point of being confused, I mean, the directors are confused. Imagine that. Me, you, and Adrian are all working on one movie or one story for the same overarching story, but I don't know when Adrian's is coming out. You don't know when yours is coming out.
Right,
We're just guessing,
right.
Let's just throw it out there. See what happens.
At some point, it'll hit the theaters. So I guess that caused some. It was tricky for the director. And then they just straight up asked him, will Batman show up in the sequel? And he replied, that's a no comment right now. You're going to have to wait for the movie to come out. You might as well just say yes, then, right? Like, is a no comment... Adrian, you think Batman will be in this Aquaman movie? Does a no comment confirm it for you?
I'm not sure, but the no comment means to me, I'm going to get as much marketing out of this as I can. I'm going to use, the big name, Batman.
Right.
And then you show up to the movie and then there's no Batman.
True. Yeah, that's the other piece, right? Because, you saying no comment does make me think he's going to be there, but if he's not,
I don't
then
know.
now
You'll have to
that's-
watch and find out.
Yeah.
There's a reason I didn't see Aquaman because it
Right.
didn't have Batman. So if you
Right.
tell me he's going to be in there, all right. That kind of
Yep.
does change the game a little bit, but I just don't like that marketing show. You'll have to watch to find out. It's like,
Right.
all right.
What is Batman going to do? Release a new set of tech?
Yeah.
The Atlantis Batmobile.
I don't
or
want to see
something?
Batman snorkeling.
Right.
Exactly.
I don't need to see that.
Well, so let's hope he's not in there. But I mean, after this last trailer, it's a little intriguing. It does make me think that they could have done something with this movie, but it's the last movie of a dying story.
Yeah.
So why do I even need to go see it?
I'm just based on what I've seen. Obviously, Jason Momoa didn't follow Hugh Jackman's workout routine. He's far cry away from his Stargate Atlantis days.
Yeah.
So and he's just trying to be funny.
Yeah.
Half the promo is just him trying to be funny and laughing, and
I hope
I don't want to see it. At this point, I think I'm talking myself out of even going to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no point. There's no point. If you just want a nice little standalone film, sure. But I mean, we are now so invested in these cinematic universes. It's almost like I don't want to see it if it doesn't tie to something else.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that's where a lot of the fan base. Yeah.
Why?
Well, it's not even about tying to something else for me. I'm okay with having movies that can stand on their own.
Yeah.
But also have a tie-in, but
Yeah.
the tie-in isn't a necessity for me. I just want a good story.
Yeah.
And that's just what they failed to do over like the last 5 years or so
Yeah.
for me.
Yep.
How funny would it be if they left it on a cliffhanger? They're like, you guess how this ends.
Right.
Yeah.
they have it like over a ledge or something. It's like
Yeah.
a
We just never get to see it.
sequel. Yeah.
Well, I mean, we probably won't be seeing this movie, so I don't think we'll review this one here. I mean, we'll see.
So you're just going to miss Aquaman altogether.
Yeah.
Let us know in
Yeah.
the comments how it is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Let us know if it's even worth checking out. And then the article that I read teased a little, what Batman would show up, right? And they said based off of the Flash movie, it would be the damn George Clooney Batman.
Oh my God.
So the less we see of that Batman, the better.
I just hope they don't keep regurgitating these shows the way they're doing with the Flash. It's like they're trying so hard to make up for how poorly the Flash was executed.
Yeah.
It's like, why are we still talking about the Flash today?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that should have been like a 30-second conversation and we move on.
Right.
Yeah, we keep coming back to this stuff, and it's a horrible situation to be in, and I just hope they don't keep doing this with every movie that they come out with. I made a shitty movie because I'm a shitty director, but so let's talk about it for the next 3 years.
Yes.
But you're not even allowed to have that conversation anymore where it's like the movie is bad because of the director.
Right.
Now it's a conversation of the movie is bad. Well, there must have been studio involvement.
Yep.
Right.
They must have ruined his vision. It's like,
Yeah.
no, maybe his original vision was just bad.
Right.
Right.
Maybe it was just written poorly.
Right.
You
Or
know?
worse, it's your fault. It's our fault, the viewers.
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
people.
Oh, yeah. I love that one. You didn't
You know.
understand it. Like, no, I understand that it sucked.
Right. Yeah. It's too sophisticated for
Yeah.
feeble minds to understand. It's like,
Right.
you know,
Or the best one was the Flash's. The CGI was supposed to look bad. Huh?
I made it bad, ironically.
Yeah. Like, not bad, but it was supposed to look like that because that's how it would look from the Flash. Like, okay.
I was just pretending to be stupid.
Yeah. All right. Next up, Karl Urban. There's a rumor that Karl Urban will play a Wolverine variant in Deadpool 3. So Karl Urban plays. You seen The Boys, Chris?
I have not.
You've
no.
not.
I've
You
seen
have,
clips.
Adrian.
I have. I
Yeah.
have.
He plays Billy the Butcher.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Love.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
love
Yep.
his portrayal, and I've read some of their comic, and it's a very good portrayal. He also plays Scourge in the Thor movies,
Yep.
which I think
Yep.
is actually that comedy's done well. The dude with the two AK-47s,
Right.
And, it's in Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah.
So there's a rumor that he's going to show up as a Wolverine variant because this Deadpool 3 movie, rumor is they're going on like a multiverse road trip, Deadpool and Wolverine. And now it's coming out as they're saying Deadpool's looking for the perfect Wolverine. And then he's going to rule out these other ones and determine that Hugh Jackman's the perfect Wolverine.
Okay.
So, I mean, I think with Ryan Reynolds, with the Deadpool character, they can pull this off. Like, that's a movie, Adrian, you talk about the comic relief button a lot. I'm not worried about it with them.
Right.
Yeah,
Because
because you know what you're getting into.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Yeah.
and we've seen it done well twice.
Yeah.
Right.
You can argue which Deadpool movie's better, but you could both. They were done well twice,
Okay.
so I think they can manage.
And
it.
you have fun. It's one of those ones. You just relax and watch Deadpool.
Right.
Yeah.
You're not expecting like an end game kind of
Exactly.
story or whatever. It's just fun.
Yep.
They do what they do well.
Yes,
You know.
100%. Now, Karl Urban. Now, you actually mentioned, Adrian, another actor from The Boys that you'd want to see
Right.
casted as Wolverine. That was Anthony Starr.
Right.
Now, Karl Urban's been a fan cast. It's kind of like the guy who played Mr. Fantastic in Multiverse of Madness, John Krasinski. I believe his name is.
Right.
He was fan casted for so long, so they kind of threw him in there for the one-off, and he was killed by Scarlet Witch in 14 seconds.
Right.
So I'm assuming this is probably going to be like that, where it's just like a one-off, few seconds. But I think it'd be cool to see him as Wolverine. He has that look,
Yeah, I could be convinced.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's never in anything bad. I've never seen him in anything, and it's never been bad because
Right.
of him. And I could definitely see him correlating to that character well.
Yeah.
So, and I actually like that premise for the movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I could see them doing that in a fun way, especially with the current Deadpool, Ryan Reynolds.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I like that premise too. I think it's almost like you're casting for the next Wolverine on screen and off.
Yeah.
I don't think I wouldn't mind seeing a Karl Urban as a one off kind of like a multiverse thing, but definitely not as a Hugh Jackman replacement. He checks all my boxes. Well, my first one.
Yeah.
He's too old.
Yeah.
He's Hugh Jackman's age,
Yeah.
4 years or so apart. He's not cut in any kind of way to play the role. And he's too tall. So I'm not. I'm
You want to
actually
see that shorter Wolverine on screen?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I do too.
I mean, I want to see it doesn't have to be true to the comic book.
Yeah, you don't need
but
to be
at
5'3".
at least similar, right? Not no 6'2" guy.
Right.
Who's the short Scientologist? Remind me.
Tom Cruise?
Yeah.
Our boy Tommy.
Yeah. Imagine him as Wolverine.
Yeah.
If you're going to do it, let's do it.
He's a short Scientologist.
Not at all.
I can't believe I forgot Tom Cruise.
Yeah, you can't forget Tom Cruise on Only Comics, dude. He's like a co-host.
Yeah.
Right.
But he gets mentioned more than anyone in comics.
He's a fun actor, though. So,
yeah.
He is, but he has his genre, and comics is not.
You're right.
Yeah, I don't want him near comics.
No. Yeah.
And the best was, speaking of the Flash again, Adrian, their marketing plan was let Tom Cruise watch the movie, get his feedback on it, and then put that out. Because comic fans are obviously going to gravitate to whatever Tom Cruise says to do.
Yeah.
That worked out well.
So, Chris, we talked so much about Tom Cruise, right? We came up with a new phrase. Tom Cruisery, like tomfoolery.
Yes.
Mike, if you can explain to Chris what Tom Cruisery is.
Yes. Tom Cruisery is exactly what I just said. It's when you use Tom Cruise as your marketing tool. When you send something to Tom Cruise and go, dude, tell us what you think, Tom Cruise. Yeah. That's Tom Cruisery.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is an actual, I don't know how well it's done, but it is a marketing a marketing plan that some of these studios
Here's
have
the
had.
problem. He's such a charismatic guy. So it works. I get it, but
but when he comes in and says Flash is the best movie ever, I mean,
did he say that?
He did say that.
Yeah. I have not seen that. Yeah. Really?
Yeah. Yep. Supposedly he reviewed the movie, gave his thumbs up. Yep. I'm like, what the hell is this guy even watching this stuff for? Yep. But whatever.
Hey. Well, speaking of tomfoolery, the Marvel's next movie to hit the theaters is The Marvels. Okay, this movie, this is a body swap comedy. Is kind of
I remember the trailer.
Yeah. This I'm not sure about this one. It's hard because Marvel's in this spot now where outside of Guardians 3, they've not really had anything that did well or even was received well in a while.
Right.
I mean, No Way Home, Guardians 3. For the MCU, I mean, Across the Spider-Verse, but that's not connected, so that they can't count that. That's Sony's deal. So the Marvels is their next, their next swing, their next at bat, and I don't know. I mean, it seems like a decent concept, but the couple things that I don't think are helping this movie or going to help is number one, the runtime's really short. I think it's like an hour and a half.
Right.
No way, really.
3 main characters, a whole new villain, some type of Kree, either war, peace settlement. Nick Fury's back at all this stuff is going to happen in an hour and 30, 40 minutes. I don't think so.
Yeah. Even from the trailer, I can be sold on so bad it's good.
Yeah,
I'll go see something if I think it's terrible, if I'll have a good time, but it just looks bad, boring.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's like the more I see the previews, the less I want to watch it.
Yeah.
And Brie Larson, I mean, she looks like she's trying to take a shit to be into that Captain Marvel persona. It's just I'm not feeling it, dude.
No.
It's like the more I see the previews, just stop doing a preview.
Yeah, because after the first one, I was ready to go see it.
Right.
I was like, it seems cool.
Right.
And then now this IMAX preview one, it's like, dude, I don't know, man.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, hey, it'd be short movie, so I guess you can watch it, in between like shopping or something.
Right.
Look, the best body swap thing was Lindsay Lohan back in the early 2000s, Freaky Friday.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, you can't just reskin that as a Marvel movie, all right? It's been done before.
Right. Or, I mean, this isn't really a body swap, but Face Off was, speaking of your boy Nick Cage.
Right.
That was a good one, too.
Yeah, that was a pretty good show.
They should do that here. They cut each other's faces. I mean, that'd be a little too graphic for Marvel. But, yeah, this one, I saw and then this whole, push to go watch it in IMAX. All right, here's the thing about IMAX. There's one good or maybe 4 good seats in IMAX. Yeah. It's in the dead center of the theater.
Right.
If you sit too close, screen's too big. You sit the screen is massive.
Right.
And to the point where it's almost too big unless you'd be all the way in the back, and the middle is probably the best seat in IMAX.
Right.
So I don't run out. I watch these movies at a regular theater. I don't run out to IMAX.
No,
you guys ever?
I've never sat.
You've never seen one in IMAX?
No. Is it like life changing?
No.
Does it change my worldview?
Nope. Maybe this will be a hot take, Adrian, but no, IMAX is not life changing.
Yeah.
In fact, it's actually makes you dizzy because you're trying to find parts of the screen because it's way too big.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
No, I've gone to the one in Providence. and the sound is a little bit more crisper. It's almost like, am I listening to Blu-ray or high definition DVD kind of thing? It's definitely not. I'm going from VHS to DVD. It's nothing like that. So save your money.
Yeah.
Save your gas. Don't try to find an IMAX theater. Just watch it in standard.
It sounds like when you were a kid and you get late to the movies, right? Your friends running late, and so you have to go in one of those front rows.
Yes.
It's
exactly what it's like.
Straight up.
Right. So it's like that, Chris, except 80% of the theater is like that.
Oh, that sounds fun.
It's like, the screen's so big. It's like the Pimp My Ride syndrome, right? You like a big screen, Chris? You like an 80-inch screen. I'm going to give you an 800-inch screen. Matter of fact, I'm going to put it right in your living room.
Yeah.
And you're like, dude, I can't see Batman anymore. I just see this building in Gotham. I don't even know where he is. And then you're getting dizzy and nauseous. And
dude, regular movie theaters are fine.
Yeah.
It's just like that's enough. Why would you want even more people? Even more
exactly.
noise, Yep. I'm good.
So no. All right. Now who's our buster this week, Adrian? We gotta give it to WB again.
Let's do WB again. It's like it's just getting ridiculous, dude.
Yep. WB for what you guys actually they didn't even really do anything again. It's just the fact that Tim Burton is now upset about it. So it's like they didn't even do anything. Like they did this like months ago.
He's chastised. And another thing. Before you leave the room in an argument.
Yep. Yep. So there you go. WB. I think this is like 2 or 3 weeks in a row that they've been our now freshly coined Buster.
WB. Hey, Buster, you've upset Tim Burton. You've gone too far.
That's it.
You've crossed the line. Yeah. All right, next up. So we have a segment here, Chris, called Hidden Gem, right?
Yeah.
This is Adrian's segment. So Adrian has, we talked about this before, and even when the first time you were on, we're 3 different generations of comic fans, right? I was born mid-'80s. You're born end of 90s. I know you say 90s. It's almost 2000, though,
99.
So, 99. He made the cut, though.
He made the cut.
Adrian, mid-70s?
No, late 60s.
Late 60s. Yeah. Oh, shit, man. All right, late 60s.
Old school.
But 3 completely different generations of comics, right? And we've determined, you put it well, that you have more time in comics than me. So
right.
Adrian knows a lot of these, sometimes obscure, but we call them hidden gems. And I think a lot of it is based off, Adrian, like we think about the live action portrayals, right? Like they keep going to the same handful of characters. So we're like, these are some hidden gems that like a lot of times would be great to have in these movies.
Right.
Last week we had Constantine.
Yep.
We've had The Guardian. We've had Nova. We've had Captain Marvel's binary form. So this week, Adrian, who is our hidden gem?
So this week, it's not like he's unknown, but I think his power set and his contribution has been muted, especially in live action. So this week is Dr. Doom.
Dr. Doom.
Victor Von Doom, my man. He's I was actually reading his bio, and he's kind of like, I think, what the High Evolutionary would evolve into.
Okay.
I mean, I'm sorry. He would evolve into the High Evolutionary.
Oh, okay.
He's kind of like this mad, my way is the only way, and I'm going to make everything survive on my back kind of thing. But interesting guy. So his mother, he got started. I think he has one of the only cities. He grew up in one of the only cities that was like created for the comics.
Okay.
Latveria.
Yeah.
Like unlike DC where everything's like, Metropolis and Gotham.
Right.
They're all, fictitious places. So his mother was actually like a witch, and who actually got him into sorcery.
Okay.
But she had like a pact, or she was enthralled with their version of the devil, Mephisto, right? So pact meaning all the other stuff that goes along with pact. Anyway, so she taught him or introduced him into magic. And so he grew up with this kind of a thing, went to school. He interacted with Reed Richards and Ben Grimm. Richards and Grimm used to like play pranks on him, that kind of stuff. They were fast friends until, right? Doom's mother was still basically a slave of Mephisto all this time. So he wanted to get his mother away from this demon.
Yeah.
And so he created this thing where he can go into other dimensions or something like that. And he asked Reed Richards, his friend, to check his calculations. Reed said, you got an error. Doom didn't believe him because he thought he was trying to sabotage him.
Yeah.
And the machine blew up in his face, literally, which is why his face is scarred, which is why he started wearing the mask and all this other kind of stuff. And so ever since then, he's blamed Richards for the explosion and, ultimately not being able to get his mother away from Mephisto. So they've been bitter rivals ever since then.
Yeah.
In his mind. So he went on and he learned about, more magic. He created the armor, which gives him several powers, and
so he doesn't have any superpowers.
Well, his superpower is his mind.
Okay.
And because he and Reed Richards are really like, when you think about Brainiacs in the Marvel universe, it's Anthony Stark, it's Reed Richards, it's Victor Von Doom.
Yeah.
These guys are like, off the chart kind of a thing. But they also have like different types of brilliance.
Yeah.
Tony Stark is more mechanical. Reed Richards is more I would say like universal kind of science, and Victor Von Doom is magic, but he's also very sciencey as well.
Got it.
So as far as his powers, his armor gives him super strength, speed. He can teleport. He project blasts, right? He can he's got a force field that protects him. As a matter of fact, it's been said, I think at least at one point I saw him be able to withstand like a nuclear blast, his armor. He's also immune to Magneto's shit, right?
Yeah.
So even though his armor is made out of titanium, is a nuclear powered titanium armor, he's able to resist Magneto's influences. So, but his real thing is that he thinks that his mission is to save humanity through him, right? He is a self-proclaimed protector of the human race, and he will go up against anybody in order to make that happen. He's gone up against Thanos. He's gone up, name pretty much anybody. Galactus, even though he didn't really go up against Galactus, he kind of like just siphoned his powers away, so he can like become more powerful himself. So it wasn't like a one-on-one fight, but he's pretty much going up against most villains and superheroes. So he's kind of like an anti-hero.
Yeah.
So he'll fight alongside, like Namor. He'll fight alongside more established superheroes.
Okay.
But he also has his own agenda.
Got it.
So I think he's maniacal. He's but his mind is based on magic. Matter of fact, his magic is so good, he was actually considered a candidate for Sorcerer Supreme, which is Doctor Strange at this point.
Really?
So he's able to wield power like that.
Yeah.
So this dude he's got a very good power set.
Yeah.
Obviously he has diplomatic immunity because he has his own country.
Yeah.
So he also has that kind of stuff. His technology is such that sometimes when he appears in public, it's not actually him. He creates androids and sends them out on missions as himself. Full diplomatic Victor Von Doom.
Yeah.
And so they're operating autonomously while he's out doing other stuff. So the dude's bad, man. When you show up on the scene riding the back of a black bear, you're a bad mofo, dude. So that's the hidden gem for this week.
Got it. And Dr. Doom, so he started out as like Fantastic Four main villain, right? But we've seen him go up against just about everybody.
Oh yeah, Silver Surfer. Yeah. You name it, he's gone up against them. Now, or try to steal something. His thing is that he time travels a lot too. And he does that to accumulate technology because he doesn't have this thing about, whether time travel is good or bad, how it's going to distort things. He just does it because it furthers his agenda.
Yeah, got it. Now, if Fantastic Four are like his number one, foe, opponent, who would you say number two? Would it be Iron Man?
I don't think in Doom's mind there is a number two. Reed Richards is his thing primarily, and it's not the Fantastic Four. Specifically Reed, because he thought that Reed was trying to sabotage his efforts to get his mother away, which I don't think he ever did.
Got it.
But he's even fought. Went up against against Mephisto himself.
Yeah.
You know? So he has no qualms about going up against anybody, and he'll figure out, you know, what happens in the process. But zero fear in Doom's mind.
You know what's the best about that character too is when he is used. In the few stories I've read with him, or a few appearances, they always write him with like he's a bad dude, but this element of humanity to him. One of the first Spider-Man comics I read was the 9/11 issue. It came out right after, and one of the ways they depicted the emotion around it was Dr. Doom is there. And he's shedding a tear and it's coming through his mask. He's just sitting there. He's not doing anything. He's just in the corner. Everyone's around helping. Even he has this shred of humanity as to everything going on. That's a really interesting way to depict that character.
Yeah,
right. You know, this really the martyr, the bad guy, but there is that element of humanity to him. You know.
Well, like you said in previous discussion, it's like he thinks that. He wants to bear the brunt of humanity moving forward on his shoulders, and if somebody attacks humanity at all, he feels that because probably because he wasn't there to protect. It's like a parent. Yep. He wasn't there to protect these people 9/11, and this is something that goes against everything that he's trying to do. Right. So I look at it that way. So I mean, it's cool that I didn't see that, but it's cool that they depicted him like that, and that's why he always stays like this anti-hero kind of a deal.
I'd love to see him done, the right way in live action.
Right.
He's one of these characters. I was just looking. He made his first appearance in Fantastic Four #5. So very early on. That was in 1962. Created by Stan Lee, Jack Kirby.
Right.
First of all, I mean, Stan Lee is the motherfucking man. You think about some of these iconic characters, and some of the best characters that we talk about today were created by Stan Lee.
Right.
You're talking about Spider-Man.
Absolutely.
And Jack Kirby's always right there as well. But, I don't think those guys get enough credit because now we're so focused on movies, live action, and what's happening now. But it's like they created these characters, 50-plus years ago. But and Doom, I mean, he's an iconic looking. Like, the look is awesome, too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
What I hate in comics sometimes is, like, you see this a lot, DC versus Marvel. Like, DC creates a comic, and you're like, dude, that looks like Iron Man's mask. That looks like so-and-so's Kate. Like, you didn't create shit. You just, took a few pieces. But this is a unique-looking, character. And we've seen him in live action, right, in the older Fantastic Four movies. But nothing done right.
Yeah. It's just like they try to do with Galactus, man. Yeah. It's like they just not getting the portrayal correct. Yeah. But I hear they're going to Josh Hartnett. Has been cast as Von Doom. Okay. And I mean, when I first saw that, I was like, but I've seen him in a couple of movies. Yeah. I don't know if you guys have ever seen Penny Dreadful on Netflix or Max or anyway, one of the streaming. That's pretty cool. Yeah. It's like what's that Sean Connery flick where he got together with like all the crazies from the 1800, Frankenstein and something Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Oh, League of Extraordinary
Gentlemen. Penny Dreadful is like a series version of that.
Got it.
And Josh Hartnett is in that. He plays the American cowboy, of course, but he's also a werewolf. Yeah. So I'm optimistic about him playing Doom. Of course, he'll probably be like a Ryan Reynolds thing where he's voiceover most of the time, right? And because Doom is never unmasked, in the he's in the beginning, but so it that'll be interesting to see. But I just hope they get the portrayal properly because like when they did in the Fantastic Four, two people they did not get properly. They didn't portray properly. Doom, actually 3, Silver Surfer, and Galactus, especially because they had him come out as some dark thunder cloud or something.
So Cloud is the villain. Oh no, the Cloud's gonna get us. Run.
Chemtrails.
Yeah. There was a rumor around the release of Wakanda Forever that the end scene, the end credits would have had a little teaser with Dr. Doom in it, where he was the one, or he's the next guy looking for the vibranium for his suit or for some other weapon or something he was building, which I thought would have been a great intro for him. You know, I don't know. And for all the, you know, that movie, I get it, it's got mixed reviews, I guess. I'm mid on it. I think it was great in some aspects and horrible in others, but that would have been a nice way to end that movie with that little tease.
Yeah. I wasn't a fan of Black Panther 2 at all. There was too much just nonsensical stuff in it.
Yeah.
But I do agree that if he would have stepped out at the end, that probably would have been a good thing.
We have another fun reoccurring thing on this show. It's not really a segment, but you see Adrian's attire today. He's got the Black Adam stuff on. So I'm going to ask it, Adrian. Was Black Adam better than Black Panther 2?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Hands down. I wouldn't even I would say that the opening scene of Black Adam up until like during the whole fight thing was better than the entire movie of Black Panther 2.
I think we're gonna have some busters out there. Hey,
let's do it.
Hey, Buster.
Is that a hot take, guys? We've been accused of a couple of things. We've been accused of telling the truth. We've been accused of having hot takes as well, you know. So just want to brace yourselves.
Getting controversial on Only Comics.
Yeah, we do at times. Hey, if you like the controversy, hit the subscribe button and check out some of our other videos. So, Dr. Doom, I'd like to see him in live action as long as he's portrayed. Like, I'd like to see him portrayed by or done in the way with the care that they gave the character Thanos is probably the best way to put it. He's not going to look like Thanos, obviously, but the attention to detail that went into that. Like, I always think about Thanos versus when X-Men had the Apocalypse in their movie with Oscar Isaac, how they fumbled that horribly, but they scored a touchdown and a grand slam with Thanos. Right. All right, Hidden Gem. Anything else on Doom, Adrian, before we move on?
No, I just think that that's an opportunity for Marvel, Disney, to really, bring out a really strong character.
Yep.
But they just have to, because I actually think that the actor that played Doom in the film Fantastic Four was a good actor portrayal. I just think they probably neutered him a little bit.
Yeah.
But Von Doom, his power set is such that, and it's not just the power of his armor, but his dictatorship. Just his presence. Yeah. And I think that they need to focus on being able to make Doom kind of permeate through his armor onto the screen. And I don't think they're there yet.
Yeah.
Because so much of Doom is presence. It's not his power set, and it's not his weapons, it's his presence. And they need to be able to pull that off.
Yeah. Cool. Well, if you like the Hidden Gem segment, check out the rest of our Hidden Gem playlist for our previous weeks. Now we're going to do something for the first time here on Only Comics, a artist spotlight. Okay, yep. So I have my man Chris here, who, like I said, if you watched the first episode, you remember him from that. But Chris has been working diligently on his own comic book. Just released a couple weeks back.
Released in July.
Released
in July. Started shipping in August.
Got it. So. Well, before we even get started, let everyone know where they can find you, follow you, if they like what they hear today and they want to get more information about your art.
The best place to find me is Instagram, Chris Boyle Art. That's pretty much my main social media. I am on Twitter, too, under the same name. If you search Chris Boyle Art, you'll find me on pretty much everything, but I'm responsive on
Hey, Chris,
Instagram.
Can you spell that out, especially your last name?
ChrisBoyleArt. And I do that because I can't spell verbally for some reason.
Perfect. I was going to ask. That was going to be my next question, Chris.
I need the muscle memory of actually like it. I don't know.
He can't spell verbally, but he can put together a hell of a comic book.
That's right. That's right.
The first night, we're not going to do it. No spoilers, because no one, Adrian's not read. I've read it. I really enjoyed the first issue. And I gave it to my son, who was 19, and his response, he texted me. So when you're kids, like, you live in the same house and they text you because, God forbid, they came out the room, right? Yeah, I mean, in our day, we just went out, right? You need something, But he texted me. He's like, dude, this is awesome. This issue's fire. When's the next one coming out?
That's exciting. That's exciting to me. I've gotten, because a lot of people have shared it with other people.
Yep.
I ran a Kickstarter for the initial launch of it, which was really successful. I'm very lucky to say that. So I shipped books to California. I shipped them across the street. I shipped them all over the country, and it's really exciting. Now I've gotten actually like recognized in public now.
Yeah,
I'll go to a store and they'll be like, "Hey, you're Chris Boyle. You wrote that
That's
book."
awesome,
I really like.
dude.
And
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's a bit of an imposter syndrome kind of thing, but I'm very lucky to be able to say,
when you
like,
make
the
it
stuff
big,
is out.
just remember us here at Only Comics.
Oh yeah, no, I'm
Chris,
coming
okay?
back. We'll
Yeah.
review everything.
Yeah.
We'll review every book on Only Comics.
There we go.
Yeah.
So tell them in a nutshell, spoiler free, give them some information about what the first night's about, who the main character is.
The first night is about a lone warrior who has lost his way. He's lost his people, and he is going up against the big evil of his world, just as one man. He's going over insurmountable odds, and he's basically reached his breaking point on a lot of things, and it's led him to do some pretty desperate actions. So it's a big character piece on him, but it's also a reflection of me and kind of the theme of the story overall. It's the first part to something that's much larger. It's a little intro to a world that I kind of have lived in for a couple of years. So
Got it.
it exists in its form exactly how it was meant to.
Okay.
So I tried to leave nothing off the table.
When did you start working on this mentally?
2017.
Okay.
2017. The first night, this story, it's a one-off kind of thing. I say that lightly because it's very connected to everything else. It's where the story actually begins. This is the actual start to the story.
Got it.
But the idea as a whole, I started working on in 2017, and it's just been a journey. It's been one of those things where you know, it's kind of like the idea is driving the car.
Yeah.
You get in the car and you're not with your friend. You're not sure where you're going, but together we're going somewhere. So you just kind of trust your friends.
Got it. Got it.
It's been a journey, and it will continue to be a journey. But I'm excited to finally have part of it out into the world. It's crazy. It's under my copyright. To be able to actually hold something in my hands that I like put out into the world, it's a powerful feeling. So
That's awesome. Well, I mean, you think 6 years working on it, right?
Yeah.
Whether now did you plan to create a comic book in the first place, or was it just a character you started drawing that then you said, oh, you know what, I should turn this into a story?
when I was younger, I always wanted to draw Batman.
Okay.
You know, I always wanted to draw for DC Comics doing Batman. That was a dream. And then, you know, especially in your late teenage years, you go through that phase where you're not really sure what you want to do.
Yeah.
You know, we're the kids of America. Where are we going? And, you know, so I eventually I stopped drawing, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. And then I was having a rough time in college.
Yeah.
And I remember I went on a run one day, and this idea just like came into my head. And then I went home and I drew, at the time, what was that character.
Yeah.
And then it kind of sparked everything else. And then my dream became not to draw Batman. Then it became, I want to make my story.
Got it.
I don't care what form that takes. I don't care about the financial aspect of that. You don't get into comics to make money.
No.
You know, so I know following this character will lead me somewhere because it has thus far. It's been 6 years, and people hear 6 years and they're like, oh my gosh, like that's a long time. But my career, you know, my portfolio, everything has come out of following this idea.
Yeah.
In some capacity. So, I didn't know I wanted to make the story in its current form, up until probably a year or two ago.
Yeah.
I started working on the first night last year.
Okay.
Because I really sat down and decided that's where I wanted to start the story, because I felt like if you like this, okay, now we can have some fun. It's like it's a test. It was a test for me to see if this crazy idea could exist and be well received.
Yeah.
You know, and I've been lucky enough. I've gotten emails. I've gotten DMs on Instagram or Twitter with really kind words as to the.
You can slide into his DMs with kind words, is what he's saying. Anytime they're open.
I love to hear it. I love to hear it. Just, you know, the more people that read and share the book, the more my stuff gets out there, and you know it's wonderful to have my artwork being seen by people. That fulfills a really big goal that I've had. But it's a little selfish because it's more for me to be able to finally hold this.
Yeah,
thing,
that's awesome.
This piece of my personal history.
Right.
So, Chris, you're on this run, and you have this lightning bolt moment, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
And you say you started out, you wanted to draw Batman, and not pulling a DC and just like stealing from everybody else. Is your character based off of some other character? Or what sparked you to create this particular character?
So specifically in the case of this book leads to the whole main idea, and this book didn't. The idea for this didn't exactly exist at that time, but that character, which this leads to, it was probably a culmination of a lot of different pop culture things I was into at the time, Batman and all these other things. I love that archetype, hero archetype of Batman. You know, like a Captain America is too perfect.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. I wanted a fallible character because I am not a perfect person. So
none of us are, Chris.
My characters are a direct. They're reflective of me.
Got it.
Anything I write about myself.
So are you the biggest inspiration for your character?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a backdrop for me to be able to talk about whatever I want to talk about.
Got it.
And and make it relatable for other people. You know, having a character that goes through struggles and challenges and overcomes these things. There's this thing in comics where Spider-Man is everyone's their favorite book to work on. It's also their least favorite because they're you have to be really mean to your main character.
Yeah.
You have to.
Oh, yeah, you got to put Peter Parker through some shit.
No one wants to see Peter Parker win all the time.
Right.
Everyone wants to see him beaten down, the underdog story,
yeah,
and then overcoming those odds.
Right.
It's a really powerful thing. That's something
Yeah.
I hung on to a lot. And then for first night, Oba, the main character, he's kind of like my Optimus Prime.
Okay.
He's like that beacon of hope.
Yeah. Got it.
So that's what he serves in the story.
In this main story, because you said this a few times, this is the beginning.
Yep.
You have this whole other, the rest of the story,
Yep.
either planned, somewhat planned, kind of thought of.
Yep.
And is he the main character for this entire story?
He is not.
He's not.
He is a pivotal character.
Got it.
He is a pivotal character.
Okay.
So his story is very much so relevant
Yeah.
to the remaining. It is an introduction to everything.
Got
so
it.
it touches on a lot of points, and it leaves a lot of cool set pieces.
Yeah.
To pick up again. And like my mother asks me sometimes, she's like, "Why is he hairy? Why is he full of fur? Why does he have horns?" I don't know. That's just it's hard to explain to people. These ideas pop into your head.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know what goes into the character design sometimes. It's just how it exists. Yeah. So it's one of those things where I wanted to start here.
Yeah.
Because if you like this book here, it's like, okay, now if they bought that, we can have some fun.
Yeah.
Right. We can have some fun.
So speaking of buying it, right now, we got some viewers here watching, right? If they want a copy of this, I mean, are there physical copies available to purchase? Is it digital? How could someone who was not involved in the Kickstarter, if they want to purchase a copy?
So I'm working on a more streamlined way of doing that.
Yeah.
But currently, the best way to do it after the Kickstarter is to DM me on Instagram directly at Chris Boyle Art, or just email me by the same name, chrisboyleart@gmail.com. And we could work on either getting you a digital copy or a physical copy I have to ship out. I'm looking to streamline that a little bit more.
Okay.
Trying to look into different avenues as to where I want the digital to exist.
Yeah.
Looking at things like Amazon to purchase it on there.
Got it. But for now, just reach out to you.
For now, just reach out to me. And very soon we're going to have a new way of doing that. I'm looking to consolidate things into my website, which will be great.
Got it.
And we'll have some new stuff available at some point.
Nice. Well, this is more just to brag because I was involved in the Kickstarter. So I got, Adrian, check this out. This first night T-shirt right here, signed by my man Chris Boyle.
Yeah.
Right?
Nice.
I got that. I have the deluxe edition, which there's a little end. There's like an end credit scene almost.
I have
Ooh, deluxe right there.
Yeah, there's a little bit of an end credit scene.
It's funny since I was reading that one, and my son was like, "I want to read it," and I have a few copies, so I gave him. You gave me a signed copy, a regular one, and deluxe. So I gave him the regular one, and then we're talking afterwards, and he's like, "Yeah, this part, that part," and I said, "Hey, dude, I mean, in the end credits, I mean, he's got to be coming out with something soon." He's like, "What are you talking about?" So my version didn't have that, and I was like, "Oh, well, mine did." And I'm like keeping it away, you know what I mean? And then also I got this nice poster here, dude. Put this up in my office upstairs. So
nice.
But dude, this is awesome. And what's cool is I've known you a couple years now, 2.5 years or whatnot, close to. So I remember you telling me you're gonna work on a comic, and I remember you showing me some of these drawings, and in fact, like in your office, you have it hanging on the wall. So it was cool from like the outside perspective to see, because dude, I hear a lot of shit. Everyone's gonna do everything, right? Yeah. Adrian, how many times do people say, "I'm gonna start a business, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna lose 5 pounds, I'm gonna stop smoking crack," whatever it is, dude. It's all people tell me all kinds of stuff, and they usually don't do shit. I mean, straight up. So Chris told me he's making a comic book, and he actually did. So I got to see a lot of the process throughout. So it was awesome to see, dude.
Yeah. And it's an accomplishment for me because a lot of people want to get into comics. There's not really there's not a path to that. There's not one path,
right?
And I got to a point where I just wanted to finally see my name on a book.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what? I'll just do it myself.
Right.
I'll just do everything myself. And I was telling Adrian before, because it is copyrighted and registered, because it's a comic book, it goes into the Library of Congress.
Wow.
So they reached out to me, and I put I send them 2 copies that will exist in the Library of Congress until this nation ends.
That's awesome, dude.
So
wow. Makes me want to write a comic just for that. Like, I don't even know why it's a bit, but like, I want to be in the Library of Congress.
Right.
So it's, and it's a scary thing as an artist because you release something out there, now you can't hide it anymore.
Yeah.
There's, a lot of people, I think, they have these big ideas, and then you finally go and you put it out there. That last step, it's a big thing to overcome because now you're not separated from this work.
Right.
For a long time, this was a very private thing that I worked on. For I would say 5 of those 6 years, it was just me in my head, in my sketchbook, doing these things.
Yeah.
And finally, I went to people and coming to them with these ideas. Hey, this is what I'm working on. They're like, you should take this somewhere.
Yeah.
So that was a big thing to finally not separate myself from the artwork. Now, this is Chris Boyle.
Yeah.
This is what he's about. He does this.
Right.
A lot of people can on that. A lot of people can't handle that ultimate scrutiny. It's one thing to put something out, but now once you do, you open yourself up to the world, to criticism, comments, things like that. So, kudos to you, man. It's inspiring. I hope other people do it too. I'm guilty, of procrastination.
Yeah.
Procrastination. We all have things that we think about. No one knows what we're thinking about, but it's good to see that somebody, especially that you are familiar with, that goes out and does something. So that's very inspiring, man.
I've gotten some messages, and these are my favorite messages I've ever seen. It's just, you doing this book inspired me to do X.
Yeah,
and to do this project. I don't care what your project is. I really don't care. If you just do something for you, if you're just putting anything out there, that's crazy to me. That's amazing. So the fact that it's had that reaction on people is insane.
Yeah,
and I'll forever be grateful for that.
So I got one question for you though. Is Chris Boyle the Mask? Or is First Night the Mask?
I don't know. That's a toughie.
That is.
That's a toughie. You know what? Yeah, I think at this point in time, I've finally felt like I've grown into the Chris Boyle name, whatever that meant.
Okay.
And I think Chris Boyle has a lot going on, and it's hard to boil it down to one thing. I don't think it's the Mask anymore.
Okay.
I don't think it's. I finally think.
So it used to be
synonymous. Yeah.
Wow.
But I think with the release of this, and with a few other projects I'm working on, I'm finally.
It's
out.
like you're like the Smart Hulk now. Right. They've combined, right? Yeah.
I'm finally out there. So.
All right.
Cool.
Last question before we move on is, so first issue, first episode, first comic. Yep. What's next? When's it coming?
So what's next is the big story.
Okay.
And the big story is going to take some time.
Got it.
But I'm working on my goal for 2024 is to write and draw a 100-page story.
Okay.
So
to release in 24?
I would love to.
Yeah,
I would love to. If I could get it out in 24, absolutely.
got it.
But I have some really big plans for this.
Yeah,
is what I will say. Some really big goals, and it's Mike, you always told me have lofty goals, and I definitely do for this project. And I will say I'm working very hard on the stuff that's coming out.
Good.
And I'm excited for it.
Awesome.
There's a lot in store, and it's gonna be fun.
Cool. Well, congrats, dude. Thanks for coming in and sharing this. And Chris Boyle Art, drop him a follow, man. You want some of the art? You want to check out the book? Slide in the DMs.
Slide into my DMs.
Slide in the DMs. Ask him, and he'll set it up. But great story. I recommend all y'all check it out. And I can't wait to see where this thing leads to.
Thank you.
All right, next, so we got 2 more segments, Chris. So we have our King of the Comics, and then we also, in honor of Batman Day, we mentioned this last week, we chose to do a deep dive into a comic book story. So far, our show this is episode 22, I believe. So far, we've only reviewed movies, live-action movies and shows here, and some animated movies, right? We've not reviewed any comics yet, so this will be a first. And the comic we're going to review after our King of the Comics tournament will be Death in the Family.
Yep.
The iconic story where, James Todd meets his fate. But before that, we started something, Adrian, maybe 3-4 weeks ago, called King of the Comics Tournament. Just for fun, we said, you know what, let's take a handful of comic book characters, let's pit them against each other in one-on-one, imaginary. It's kind of like stuff you used to do like in the schoolyard, right? Like, if Batman fought Superman, that type of stuff.
Yep.
So we said, we'll do that. We use, now, full transparency, we use a little bit of AI to help us.
Right.
And the AI helped us come up with a handful of different categories. And now we're out of these divisions. So we have a winner from each division. This is, I think, round 3.
Yep.
Right? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 competitors left. Okay. And we're going to have a discussion. Now, there's 3 of us, so we don't need the coin this week.
Okay.
So we're going to have a brief discussion. We're going to name 2 characters. And imagine, you've seen Thor Ragnarok.
Yep.
Imagine the fight being something like that Thor-Hulk fight where they're in the big Coliseum, where it's just a one-on-one, no team. We're not on anyone's home planet. Superman's not on Krypton. Batman's not in Gotham.
Right.
They're just 1v1. Who would win, right? So far, Super Strength division, Hulk won that. Okay, Hulk beat Hulk beat Sentry, and then Hulk beat Superman.
Hulk beat Superman.
Yeah. Okay. So you have to check out last week's show to find out.
Right.
Yeah.
Check it out.
Hey, Buster.
Yeah.
I don't know
Chris
about
would
that
agree
one.
with that. But that got some mixed review. There's a couple people that agreed wholeheartedly, and some were like, y'all are crazy. Now, Tech Mastery division, Batman won. Batman beat Lex Luthor, and then Batman beat Iron Man last week. Yeah. So, our first matchup today, Hulk versus Batman. Man. Now, I know, Adrian, you made a prediction. You said you thought Batman would win the whole thing. Now, this one's a little...
So what is this? Strength or techno wizardry?
This is neither. They've each won their division.
Oh, okay.
This is now, they won a 1v1.
They're in the Coliseum.
They're in the Coliseum.
Okay.
Now, Batman did have time to prepare because he knew all the competitors prior. So we can get that whole plot hole out of here, right? Now, would he have been able to prepare for all, 32 of them? Maybe. So Batman we'll say Batman had a month to prepare. Batman versus Hulk, 1v1. What say you, Adrian?
I don't like the Batman had a month to prepare thing. Let's just assume these dudes they rounded the corner, Batman, Hulk, and they started.
Okay.
Right? Either way, I think it'll be Hulk.
Yeah.
Regardless, not just because of if Batman had time to prepare, what I think he would do is probably take out Bruce Banner initially.
Yeah.
But the fact that you can't really even kill Banner. I mean, Banner's tried to eat bullets,
right?
Throw himself off of buildings. So he's tried to end his own pain, and it just didn't work. He just ended up turning into the Hulk,
right?
So I'm gonna say the Hulk.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna agree. What about you, Chris?
It's tough. I want to say my boy Batman. I want to say my boy Batman.
Yeah,
but,
you want I mean. You want to say it, but
and it's
I mean,
it's Batman month. I coined it Batman month because it's the one day's not long enough.
No,
so,
but it's like
It's hard though.
You got to think like, what's he coming in there with?
Right.
You know?
Right.
Yeah.
Because
he
I mean,
just
because
Batman?
I mean,
Yeah.
what are the Hulk's weaknesses? I mean, again, his only weakness is trying to get him before he turns into the Hulk,
Yeah.
which only turns him into the Hulk.
Yeah.
You know, so
I think we're gonna say Hulk on this one.
Because it would depend too much on what he brings in with him.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And it's, it feels cheap. It feels cheap.
It
know?
does. I mean, this
Yeah.
is. I mean,
Which Batman though? Like, is Adam West in there?
No, it's definitely not Adam West. I'm thinking classic comic Batman, like Hush Batman. You know, big hulked up Batman, but still, you know, Batman Hulk would just rip his arms out of his sockets.
You know what
Right.
though? I think so. He might not take the whole thing, but I think he'd last a while.
Yeah.
That's what I would say.
Yeah.
I can agree. I can agree with that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You know, considering the level of people that he's gone up against, you know, Darkseid, all the
Right.
Superman,
Yes.
you know, things like that.
Yeah.
He definitely lasts more than a couple of seconds, but in the end, because Hulk only gets stronger, he really has no weakness unless, I mean, even if you calm them down, when you try to attack him, he's just going to turn back into the Hulk, right?
Yeah. All right, so we say the Hulk moves on. Then we had a magic and mysticism category. Okay, first round was Doctor Strange versus Spawn. Doctor Strange won that. Yeah, that's a tough one, right? Morgan Le Fay. Now, I'll give you some context too. When we don't agree on them, I have a Two-Face coin that we flip. So some of these won just by like flipping the coin, right? So it's just like everything around here. It's a little bit of tomfoolery going on.
Right.
There's a little bit of we can we've participated in some tomfoolery too.
Sure.
We're not exempt from it. No Tom Cruisery though. We don't ever mess with that shit. So Morgan Le Fay beat Scarlet Witch. That was a coin toss, I think. And then Doctor Strange beat Morgan Le Fay, right? So Doctor Strange won that category, that division. Speed and Agility was another division. Flash beat Daredevil. Spider-Man beat Nightcrawler. And then Flash beat Spider-Man. So we have Doctor Strange going up against the Flash. I'm going to say Doctor Strange wins this.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I agree.
We don't need a tiebreaker, but who would you have said if we didn't say Doctor Strange?
Yeah, I mean, I guess Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
You know, as Flash, you know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You know what I mean?
Who? Not to discredit it.
Yeah.
Doctor Strange has the amazing ability to make bad movies, so you can use that.
So does the Flash.
So does the Flash. Yeah,
Right.
You know, who would make a worse movie?
Yeah, that's actually that should be a category.
Yeah,
but 1v1, I'm thinking Strange. I think just his magic alone he'll be able to fool the Flash eventually. I mean, Flash is fast, but he brings you to one of these other dimensions.
It's gonna be that guy. Well, Flash can turn back time.
Yeah.
Here's what he would have done.
Right.
There's always one of those in the comics, Chris. Stealth and strategy. We had Black Panther beat Moon Knight. We had Nightwing beat Red Hood. We had Black Panther beat Nightwing. I think that I agree with all that, so I don't remember where I fell on each of those. And then we had Cosmic Powers. So Phoenix beat Galactus. Silver Surfer beat Spectre, and then Phoenix beat Silver Surfer. So Phoenix versus Black Panther.
I'm gonna go with Phoenix on that one.
Same.
I don't know enough about like Phoenix or the cosmic ones. To be honest. So I don't.
She's the power of the sun, pretty much.
Oh. All right.
Yeah.
Just that.
So you put it that way.
That's
Yeah, I guess so. All right, so Phoenix moves on. Next up, we have healing and durability. Deadpool beat Luke Cage. Wolverine beat Sabretooth. That was a coin toss, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, Adrian wanted to have Sabretooth win, with the coin. Then last week it was Wolverine versus Deadpool. This was a tough one.
Yeah.
We determined.
Yeah.
Deadpool
It was a tough one.
I think they did that in like a comic or something.
I'm sure they have somewhere. So Deadpool won that division, right? Now he is going up. This is our last battle. Deadpool is facing someone from the psychic and mind control division. So this was White Queen or Emma Frost. She beat Professor X week 1. I think she just kicked his wheelchair over. And then Moondragon beat Psylocke. And then last week, White Queen beat Moondragon. So we have Deadpool versus White Queen. I'm going Deadpool. He's thinking we need a tiebreaker on this.
I think we need a tiebreaker on it.
Okay.
Not because of the White Queen can't kill Deadpool. Well, she can't because he kind of can't die. But I think what she would probably do is put him in a mental state where he thinks she would just make him inert. She would put him in a realm where he thinks he's somewhere else and just makes him just useless.
Got it.
So that's what I'm thinking. It's
good.
not a death erased from the earth kind of a deal.
Right.
It's just that eliminating an opponent. So if you can lock somebody away in some terms, that's still a defeat.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
And I think she would probably
she put him in like
that.
a mental prison where he couldn't do. Okay.
Right.
I hear that. I'm just gonna stick Deadpool, but I hear that. It is a toss up. Well, you're our tiebreaker this week, Chris.
I actually don't know the other one.
Emma Frost?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't know what she can do. So
All
I
right.
feel like I am not.
Hey, fair. I appreciate your honesty. Well, that's okay. We have something for that. So
Right.
All right.
So she is kind of like a Professor X,
Yeah.
Jean Grey, not the Phoenix side, but the psychic ability side.
Gotcha.
Very strong psychic, basically. Who she is.
All right, ready. Adrian, call it in the air.
Heads.
It's tails. Deadpool moves on.
All right.
And just in case you don't believe me, let's put it right there. Yeah.
Not that you couldn't have flipped the coin over as you was taking off the table. I'm just saying.
All right, Deadpool. So there you have it. Round 3 of Kings of You don't say Kings of Comedy. Kings of Comic.
Kings of Comics, huh?
So next week, Hulk versus Doctor Strange. Phoenix versus Deadpool. These are I guess they'll be our semifinals, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, we're coming to the end of this thing. All right, now, what we all been waiting for. A Death in the Family. This is a comic from 88. It was written by Jim Starlin, same guy who created Thanos. And, I mean, Jim Starlin, he's another, we talking about, Stan Lee, Jim Starlin's up there, too, as far as creators, writers. Jim Aparo, I don't even know who that is, was the penciler. Mike DiCarlo inked this thing. Now, this is an older comic, but this is one I think this is one of the most important Batman stories. Now, it's definitely not my favorite Batman comic because I have a lot of issues with I will go through those in a minute. But as far as the impact, I mean, they killed off a main character for a long time. And yes, Jason Todd was resurrected as Red Hood and Under the Red Hood, another fantastic story. Have you read that? I know you've seen the film.
Read it? No.
No.
I've seen the film, though.
You've read that, right?
Oh, yeah.
Under the Red Hood?
Yep.
I love that story, too. Hush is one of my all-time favorite Batman comics, and we see Jason Todd in there as well. We see the Red Hood kind of resurrection teased almost, and I think that did so well. I think that's why they ended up doing it. But at this point, 88, they killed off this character. Big deal. It also got a lot of pushback from other WB or DC wasn't as happy with them killing off this character. There's a lot of shit involved in this, but the impact it's had, I mean. It really helped. Batman's a character who always has had this grief, this loss behind, this darkness, right? I mean, his whole origin, his parents killed in front of him. And then at this point, the Killing Joke had already been released. So the Joker, paralyzing Barbara Gordon. And, I mean, dude, the Joker is just a sick, freaking sadistic, this even helped move him to the next level.
Yeah.
But he flat out kills this character, which, Batman takes him in as a teenager. He's supposed to be protected. He's his ward pretty much.
Yeah.
And kid dies. I mean, massive impact, more trauma for Batman, which is, Batman's just lives through his trauma or lives with his trauma. But I've always enjoyed this. This was the first time you've read this, right, Adrian?
Yeah.
You've seen the movies and whatnot. Chris, you've read this before?
I have. Yep.
Yep.
I haven't read it recently.
Yeah.
I looked up a synopsis because I
Got
had to refresh myself. I used to have the book, and I swear to God, I sold it or something. I can't remember, but I remember it very well.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a couple things I didn't remember, we could get into.
Yeah.
We could get into
But overall, how do you feel about this book?
I do think it's one of the most important
Yeah.
Batman stories. I enjoyed it. Some things about it, it's just it's a weird choice, but maybe it's a weird choice for the time. Maybe it fit. Maybe it fit at the time.
Maybe.
So I think of it sometimes. All right, if you were to rewrite it now, with a modernized take on the character, how
I think if it was rewritten now, maybe we do this here on Only Comics. We write it. But I honestly, I think if it was rewritten now, it would be one of the best stories ever. With the right, person behind the pen. What about you, Adrian? First time reading this. How did you feel coming out of it? Was it as good as you thought it was going to be? Was it not?
It was definitely more detailed than than the show,
Yeah.
the movie. I like the little intricacies.
Yeah.
All the little things that happen in between. I mean, we'll get into it, but I by picking it up and kind of thumbing through it, seeing the details, seeing everybody that's involved, kind of consuming it at your own pace as opposed to watching it flash in front of you.
Right.
I think that was a good experience. So good read. This guy was a dick. I was glad to see him go out.
Yeah.
But they did some Walking Dead with that crowbar scene, dude.
Yeah.
It was pretty. I mean, I think the horror of it was better portrayed in the movie, but it was still pretty sick. So
that image of Batman holding Jason Todd, that's I think one of the most crucial images throughout all of comics.
Sure,
I've seen that redone. It's just that image sticks in my head.
Oh,
with that character.
Yes.
Like Batman, that's what I think. I think, the guy who's lost everything.
Yeah.
He's still going on.
Dude, it's right up there with the, I joke about it on this show, I don't want to see Martin Wayne, Thomas Wayne ever shot again.
Yeah.
But that original, like the year one comic where, Bruce, young age Bruce is on the ground with his parents. It's just about as iconic
to me,
as that.
it's almost more poignant than that.
Yeah.
It's almost at a different tier.
Right.
Yeah.
That's your son.
Right.
So to see that image portrayed, it's like that I think is one of the most important images of comics.
And I could agree with that because basically the reason that Batman keeps resurrecting these Robins is to kind of it's like a self-check, to keep him from going over the edge. He's, the Robin is the humanity part of the Batman.
Yeah.
So it's almost like he builds in these checks and balances for himself so that he doesn't go over the edge.
Right.
So, but somebody need to do something with the Joker, dude.
And
that
one of
dude
my
just going off.
I know.
That's the thing. One of my favorite things about this story in particular is it makes me question Batman.
Right.
Yes.
Why aren't you doing anything about this?
Right.
Could I not do anything about it? It makes me
Right.
question that character's morals. Is your way the right way of doing this?
Right.
Because the Joker just keeps going on and on and on and on. And the animated about where the Joker kills off what's the kid that takes the photos at the Daily Planet? Anyway,
I forget his name.
Yeah. Anyway, the photographer
Jimmy Olsen.
with the
Jimmy Olsen.
Jimmy Olsen.
There you go.
He takes out Jimmy Olsen.
Yeah.
He makes Superman think that Lois Lane is him. So Superman flies her up into space, kills her and their child, their unborn child, and then detonates a nuke in Metropolis.
Right.
All in one shot. Right. And so Superman goes off and kills the Joker and stuff. But it's like because of Batman's inability to take this dude out, he just escalates, dude.
Yeah.
And it just ends up being this. So, I mean.
Something I as a kid, you read Batman and you're like, oh, he doesn't kill people. He's a really straight and narrow guy.
Right.
And you're like, and then you get older. And you're like, why?
Right.
And you wonder if that is the right move. Would you be able to make the same call? That's why in my older years I started to really like Spawn. Spawn will make the call.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And it's sometimes you look at Batman and you're like, you're almost complacent. So you kind of
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this one you would think should have pushed them over the edge. I mean, and the fact that if we're, following canon here, it happens after the Barbara Gordon situation, which, I mean, that was Batgirl, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that was, and now she wasn't killed, but she was paralyzed.
Right.
And then what he did to Gordon in that story, and you didn't kill him there. And that's also one where I do believe, now that story was a story that was kind of standalone, but has now been brought into continuity, parts of it. This is where comics get tricky, right? Because in that story, I do believe that Batman killed Joker. Because at the end, when they're both laughing,
Right.
and then Joker's laugh stops, and then the screen cuts to black, or the comic panel cuts to black, I believe that in that standalone, he killed him. But obviously, they didn't bring that part of it into canon. They just brought the part with Barbara being paralyzed. So if we're using, that canon, you're like, dude, you did this there. Not to mention all the other people you killed that, weren't part of the Bat family.
Right.
And then now you kill Robin.
Right. And then there's even his relationships. Like he was hot and heavy with Catwoman.
Yeah.
And then the Joker tried to kill them both. And she's like, dude, I can't. This dude literally tried to wipe us both out.
Yeah.
And you still won't kill him.
Right.
Yeah.
You still won't let him go. So she dropped him. So I mean, it affects so much stuff. But also, it's kind of like his complacency is also kind of like, I'm kind of tired of seeing Martha, his parents die.
Yep.
Like, I'm tired of this dude. Just let, you always want to have Joker in Arkham. Why?
Yeah.
The Joker, the Riddler, the Two-Face. just everybody. You want to lock them up, knowing that they can't stay there.
Right.
You know, so just take them out, dude. It's getting boring now.
And I will say I do understand and I respect the character's decision not to, and I understand it does add like a value to that character. Like he's so morally righteous that he won't do that. But you do think as a reader, you're like, oh, could I make that same call?
Right. Yeah.
You know?
And I think that's part, we did our deep dive into Batman last week, and partly why, one of the reasons I love Batman so much is that he's flawed.
Yeah.
And this is, to me, another way that could be a flaw to some. Now, I'm sure there's fans out there that go, no, I love the no-kill rule, morally, blah, but you're probably also a big Captain America fan,
Right.
No offense. But, that is one I struggle with, too. I'm like, dude, I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't kill every single criminal, but Joker, I don't know. Dude, I think after the Barbara Gordon shit, I would have took him out.
Yeah, but the thing with the Captain America character is that, I mean, how many scenes or portrayals have there been where Captain America is around somebody that's just dropping people around you?
Oh, yeah.
He'll show up, I mean, first of all, he was in a war,
right?
So he's used to that level of death, that national killing kind of stuff. But he doesn't have a person around him that's going around dropping your loved ones just because he thinks it's funny.
Yeah.
So Captain America's moral rights and Batman's moral rights I think are two different power sets per se. But I mean, it's just getting it becomes heavy on me as a reader to keep seeing Batman let these characters go.
Right. So then taking it to one of my issues with the story, my issues are
let's start with our downs. So there you go. What's yours?
It's very convoluted.
Yeah.
And the Middle East stuff was very confusing. Now, I am not sure if that was relevant at that time, and that's why it was so prevalent in that comic. But
because they do that sometimes. Yes. They make things based on world events.
Right. So I don't know if that was really big at the time. So if that was a reflection of it, but for me, it made it. Taking it out of Gotham was kind of like taking it off of home base.
Dude, that's if you can see my note, that's one of my big downs was the location.
Right.
Partly, I think something that DC has an edge on Marvel with is what you mentioned earlier, their fantasy world building. Marvel takes place in the real world.
Right.
Which sometimes can be a little boring for people that live in the real world like us. Gotham does not take place in the real world. I mean, there's Gotham City, Metropolis, there's Central City, there's Palmero City for Blue Beetle. And then to take this story that is so impactful. I mean, you're killing off a character. Yep. And to your point of it being convoluted, one of the worst parts of it for me is the whole Middle Eastern part of this. Like, they're in Iran, they're in Ethiopia, they're in, I think they go to Pakistan at some point. Yeah. Like, with all of these, and it's not because it's Middle Eastern. My thing is more, you have all these fantasy worlds, all these fantasy locations, and a story this impactful should happen in Gotham.
I'm sorry, Chris. I think it is kind of political because in it, one of the characters mentioned that Joker, you're hurting financially, and he said something about Reagan, the Reagan area.
Yes,
Reagan and the economy and stuff like. So I think it is. It has, and then it had Ayatollah Khomeini or whatever that dude is in it. So I think it is kind of a time piece.
Right. Yeah. Which I hate. I hate the fact, like, you do that in Captain America stories. I mean, that's kind of been, he's always been, involved in whatever political issues going on at the time. Like, or Iron Man, we've seen it in the story and in the movie, know. I'm okay with that stuff, but you don't do that with Batman.
Yeah.
Batman's got his own, he's got Gotham to worry. He's got his own problems. You don't need to worry about.
There's ways that they've done it, right? Like, I can't remember the year that The Dark Knight Returns came out.
Yep.
But that was also culturally relevant at the time.
Yes.
That was a big part of that story was the media relevancy and the political turmoil at that time in the country.
Right.
And
but
having
it took
that
place in Gotham.
Yeah. it took place in Gotham. Right. So it took all these world events that everyone else was going through, and it took them back to home plate and centralized that. And, I feel like that's the first time that I read the story is what it was missing for me. Especially when Joker becomes
that's got to be the worst
diplomat.
Part. Yeah,
right. And so now Batman can't do anything legally, and it's like, when has he ever let the law stop him from doing something? And that was like it took it to a weird point in the story.
Yep.
But it's like like the story about the frog and the scorpion, right? Scorpion asked the frog to take him across the river, and the frog said, "Why would I do that? You're just gonna sting me, and then we'll both die." And so the frog does it, and of course the scorpion stings him, right? And they both drown.
Yeah.
Well, the Joker, right? Regardless of where he is or what he's doing, he's always got to be the Joker, right? So what does he do? He comes out, during a meeting, rips off his clothes and start, with the gas and stuff. Yep. So Joker's gonna be
what
Joker.
What you expect, dude?
Right, exactly.
They didn't check his resume.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Like, how does he get diplomatic? You said diplomatic immunity earlier with Dr. Doom, and I got like a PTSD and started thinking about this story.
Right.
But like how does Joker get diplomatic immunity with all the people he's killed throughout? Like, that's just insane.
Well, not only does he get diplomatic immunity, meaning moving forward, but he gets immunity from everything he's ever done.
Right.
Yeah. Like, how does that happen?
Yeah.
So
that was
weird.
Definitely a major down.
In Batman the Animated Series, they did kind of. There's no Jason Todd, but they touched on it with Tim Drake. And they almost redid this story a little bit. It was like a little side plot.
Yeah.
And that took place in Gotham. So the crowbar thing,
yeah,
Batman or Robin being held hostage, it took place in Gotham.
Yeah.
In like a warehouse building. And even just that centralizing of the location kind of tied it back a little bit better.
Oh yeah.
The
best version of this I've seen is there's a HBO, and I guess now it's Max. There's a Max show called Titans, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's an adult show. I mean, there's nudity, there's drugs, there's sex, there's blood, there's killing. I really enjoyed the show. I've not seen the latest season, and you have. Right?
No, I haven't seen the latest.
Oh, you haven't seen the latest season. But season 3, I believe it was, starts with this death in the family arc because it's Titans, so it's their take on Teen Titans. Dick Grayson's a cop in the beginning. He's still, he's separated from Batman. Batman's older. Batman's got to be like in his 60s in this, maybe.
Yeah.
And Dick is on his path to become Nightwing and lead the Titans. Jason Todd is in this show as well. He shows up as the heir. He's an ass in the show.
Oh yeah.
They did a great job of making him someone that you just do not like.
Right.
He's Dick. It's funny that Dick Grayson's in it. No, Jason Todd's a Dick.
Right.
And in the beginning of the 3rd season, it starts with that crowbar scene. So Batman, Bruce Wayne, he's because you don't see Batman in this show. They can't be Batman. You know how those stupid rules work, right? So Bruce Wayne is traveling, and Jason Todd, he calls him or whatnot, and he's like, dude, I found the Joker. I triangulated his blah, blah, blah. He's at Amusement Mile, blah. And then Batman's like, dude, don't go. Like, wait for me, because he's on like a flight. He's on his way back, private plane, Bruce Wayne style. And Jason goes on his own. Disobeys the order. He's taking some type of drug or whatever, and then he gets there, and it's a setup, and then Joker, you don't see Joker in this show. You see a silhouette. So that one comic panel where you can almost see Joker's shadow,
right,
where he's hitting Jason Todd. So you kind of get that effect, but it happens at Amusement Mile. And it's freaking awesome. Like, and dude, to start your like, that's before the opening credits.
Yeah.
Iconic scene. If you don't watch the show, I recommend at least watching that one scene. And it just goes to show you how, if this was done in Gotham in the right setting, how great it could be.
Yeah.
Other downs for me. Now, this one's probably more of just sign of the times, but the color, like, I think now an up for me is the artwork itself, the line work. I think it's great.
I think it's gorgeous. Yeah.
It is a very nice comic to look at. Now, and this is probably not even fair to have as a downy. You probably know this stuff a lot better than me since you are a comic artist, but I know at the time they were limited for colors.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, I'm like, I don't know how limited they were because Killing Joke came out prior to this, and I thought it was colored a lot better. But it was that, like, the same 4 or 5 colors over and over.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of the blue and gray Batman. I know that was an old, but it's like, to me, as dark as this story was, it should have been colored darker. It should have been like we joke about on this show. So if you ever hear us say it was filmed in James Gunn's garage, that, the whole DCU, how dark everything has to be, we assume that everything was just filmed in his garage. I wish this book was written in his garage.
Yeah. Yeah. You brought up the Killing Joke. Remember when they recolored that?
Yes.
I think you lose a whole lot when they recolored that book.
Oh, you don't like the recoloring?
I prefer
really? See, I prefer the recolor.
I think the original colors, just as an art piece too.
Yeah.
The way they captured the mood and the drama, using the tools that they had at hand.
Yeah.
And to make it that saturated and everything, it's still different from other books at that time.
Yeah.
You know, I think when they recolored it with granted more modern Batman colors, you know, I think you lose a little bit of that.
Got it. So you prefer that, yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't. Yeah, and it's hard because the story, like a death in the family, exists in my head with those colors in that. So, so I don't know if I'd change it, but I can agree. It's almost too bright.
Yes. And it's all in the daytime, dude. Like,
yes.
I don't want to see Batman in broad daylight. We saw that in Nolan's third film. Dude. I know you love the Christian Bale films, and I love I love that trilogy as well. But watching him fight Bane outside of the stock market exchange in broad daylight just looks, as my kids say now, goofy. It looks goofy.
Yeah.
That's tomfoolery.
Yes.
No, I am a fan of the gray and blue. To me, that's like traditional Batman. That's kind of what I grew up with. You know, all this. I mean, I think they get too much into the. I mean, if you look at every movie now, the suits are stealthier and stealthier and stealthier. Yeah. Even the Aquaman thing, he's got a black suit now.
Yeah,
looks like they. You know, he stole some stuff from Black Panther.
Yep.
But I mean, the suits are just getting ridiculous now.
Yeah.
And I like that old nostalgic. It was like you said, it's a timepiece. You know?
Yeah. Okay. So I think we all agree the location sucked. The color were kind of...
Actually, it kind of made sense for me.
Yeah.
I wasn't as offended by that.
Okay.
It's just that... And I like the fact that Joker, in the end, became the Joker. You know, regardless of diplomatic immunity.
Yeah.
Regardless of, you know, what was on the table, he became Joker and Batman compromised himself. That's what I didn't like about it. You know, like you said, when does Batman give a shit about laws? Right. He'll go to another country, snatch somebody out from that country.
Well, was it the law, or was it because Superman was there protecting the law? Like, Superman basically said, like, yo, if you I'm here to make sure you don't do anything.
I don't think Batman gives a shit about what Superman thinks at all.
Yeah,
I don't think that was the deterrent at all. I think it was like probably like a moral thing for him. I mean, because in the end, he doesn't need, you know, he already has supervillains looking for him. He doesn't need countries looking for him.
Right.
So I think he just kind of stood back, and because he knew that he was going to have his moment at some point anyway.
Yeah, got it. And I don't like the daytime feel. Like, hey, keep it blue and gray, but let's just Batman's Batman at night, dude. Like, you know, that. Now, those are the downs. The ups, I love, like I said earlier, the artwork, the line work. I think it is just it's a beautiful comic to look at. I mean, it's drawn very well. Yeah. And there are some iconic shots. I mean, when Joker first pistol whips Robin, and then just some of those shots with the crowbar. Yeah. You mentioned the scene where Batman's holding Robin. I mean, that's iconic. There's even some of these covers. I mean, it was drawn by somebody else, but like the cover, I think it's book 3, where Robin has the blood. Like, I remember as a kid seeing this on the shelf, and now like a young kid, and I didn't buy this as a young kid, but looking at that, like almost like, ooh, that's a little much.
Can you remind me, is that drawn by Mike Mignola?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So he draws it very differently then than he does now.
Yeah.
But he's always just been, his shapes are perfect.
Yeah.
And his style too. Looking at that cover is one of those retention images for me.
Yeah.
I think of Batman, I remember that. There's certain key issues you just remember that cover.
Yep. You think about his shapes. I'm just thinking about the drops. I've always would like fixate on one of the blood drops coming out of his nose because of like just the perfect circle, and it just, I don't know, there's something about that cover always intrigued me years before I even read it.
It's dark.
Yes.
If I remember right, it's the shadows. That's the, you know, the composition of that is just
I guess that's probably what I would have liked in this in the coloring of this, more shadows, more. But again, you're doing it in the freaking broad daylight, so I get it. But ups, art, Batman. I love his physicality in this. You know, seeing him taking out the criminal, even though he had an issue in the beginning with how Jason Todd jumped the gun, but and you also see a difference. Like Batman's a little more careful in the beginning than after. Robin's killed, he's a little more brutal with the criminals, you know, and I like seeing that. Like Batman, you know, I've said this before in the show. Batman will beat the shit out of you. He's got his no kill rule, but he does not have a, you know, no put you in the hospital rule. He don't care. Like I mean, he's like, oh, that guy will be out for 24 hours. That one's gonna. And I love the Batman narration.
Yeah,
right.
Any comic that has, I mean, and I know a lot of Batman comics do, but one of the mistakes some of these writers do is they don't have the Batman comic narrated by Batman, which to me that's stupid. Like that is always a highlight because we want to get inside his psyche. You know, I don't care anyone else in there. I want to hear Batman narrate that shit.
Yeah.
You know, thinking about narration, there's a couple little tidbits I picked up. Was like they mentioned his weight, 210 or 220 pounds.
Come crashing down.
You know, that thing. And it's funny they mentioned him as a millionaire, not a billionaire.
Oh yeah.
So that was kind of interesting. It's like, I don't think millions are going to get it right.
Yeah.
Right. Inflation.
Yeah.
Right?
Different time, I guess. And then I do like how the books end on a little bit of a cliffhanger. You know, the first book ends like Joker's there with no makeup.
Right.
Like that. I don't remember seeing Joker with no makeup in a comic prior to that. I mean, I'm sure there probably was, but
yeah, I think I've seen him maybe once or twice, but it's definitely it's almost like seeing Dr. Doom without his arm or something like that, you know.
Yeah, but I do like the little cliffhangers. And then again, I mean, we said this a handful of times, but that just iconic shot. I mean, dude, that should have been the cover on one of them.
Yeah, it's the cover of the like all the collected editions.
Graphic.
Of
Actually,
it.
you got.
Oh, Adrian,
show me that one.
You have
know,
it? What's that?
The death. Yep, that one.
Yes, that's the one that.
Oh, this is a different drawing of it, but
I think the
one on the back is the one we've been talking about.
And you know what? That has a more modern color.
Yeah,
like you were talking about that the cover.
The front one does.
Yeah.
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 And it's still that blue suit. I do like.
Here we go. We'll get this up here for everyone. Look at that.
And you know, I think a problem with the older colors is when they try to match it on newer paper too.
Yeah.
You know, I bet those colors look a lot different on like the newsprint.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I'm sure it is.
When you put it on like a stark white, it's just it's even more bright.
The old comics, they used to have that, like I said, the newsprint. It was like pixelated.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that was pretty cool.
Yeah. But I enjoyed going back through this. I think the setup was really good. Like the opening, the first book of this comic. I mean, dude, and it is some dark. Like they're tracking a kiddie porn ring. Like, dude, that leads me to the question. You know, are comics for adults or kids?
They're definitely for adults. I mean, there are comics that are geared toward kids.
Yeah.
But the typical, and this is why I said a few reels back. You know, when Disney took over, it's almost like a conflict of their vision of where this thing is going to go. And I don't think it should have ever happened. I think Marvel should have stayed independent. Yeah. And, you know, Stan Lee should have took this thing off into the sunset with him. But, you know, other directors would have came out. Other movie producers would have came out. There would have been a whole different universe. And I think Disney kind of neutered the Marvel.
I do think it's dark. It's dark, and I just looked it up to make sure. Dark Knight Returns predates this.
Okay.
So when that book came out, that kind of changed the tone of Batman. That's why that book is seen as such a pivotal thing.
Yeah, that was before year one, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I believe so.
I
believe so. But that was something that, like, changed that character forever.
Yeah.
Like, to become that dark and gritty thing. So that story wouldn't exist without that. And I like how, you know, it's just, like, changed. That's how that character exists for me.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely. I think I'd agree, Adrian. I think it depends on the story, right? There's plenty of comics created for kids, but the Batman and a lot of DC comics, I think, are more, you know, teenage, you know, mature, whatever rating you want to give it. But I wouldn't want my 7-year-old reading Death in the Family.
Yeah.
You know,
even the psychological stuff. I mean, once you read into this stuff, even the situations that, like, you look at Spider-Man, you don't think, you know, Batman brutality,
right?
But some of the things that he's, you know, had to deal with, you know, death. I mean, you're talking about, you know, years and years of therapy,
right?
And today, you know, with the, you know, how sensitive things are, you know, you wouldn't want to expose kids to these kind of things. So even that's crazy.
Yeah. And then we get, you know, talk about the setup a little bit more. So they're tracking this, you know, these criminals. And they're at this warehouse, and Batman, he's planful. We were joking a little bit earlier in the Kings of Comics tournament, if Batman had enough time to prepare. I mean, he's prepared. So he's got this whole attack kind of mapped out, and Jason Todd's this younger, angry, right? And he kind of moves at the beat of his own drum. Like, he's not big on authority. He wants to do what he wants to do, and he jumps the gun, and he's attacking these criminals right off the bat. It reminds me of I was watching the animated Justice League, I think it was Throne of Atlantis, and, you know, there's this issue going on, and Green Lantern shows up in Gotham to try to track Batman down. Batman's chasing these criminals, and Green Lantern thinks he's helping, and he takes them out, and he's like, I wasn't trying to take them out. I was trying to follow them and get information out of them, and now you screwed that up.
Right.
Like Batman has his plan. If he don't ask you for help, he don't need your help.
Right.
You know, and then Jason jumps the gun. He's down there, you know, ahead of the game. And even like, I love the narration throughout this fight where he's like, I think it was like the last guy standing. He's like, I'll just let Jason take him out because he's got a lot of built up rage. Like, so as much as Batman's trying to pull him back, he's also using it to his advantage.
It's almost like Jason Todd should have been a villain.
Yeah.
You know, it's like in this new Aquaman movie comes out, and even Guardians of the Galaxy. It's like, why is it that Guardians of the Galaxy too, but also Nick Fury, the show that
Secret Invasion.
Secret Invasion. It's
Don't
like,
watch that, Chris.
You pissed off about one thing, and you want to wipe out an entire race of people because of that one thing, and that drives you for years.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand being angry at people. I understand even revenge. But it's like, I'm going to wipe everything and everybody out. And that's like that Jason Todd. It's almost like he would have built up into that kind of a character.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's too much anger, and and Batman has too many other things to focus on. He can't have the person next to him, screwing up his mojo.
Right.
You know what? It's hard to judge it just as its own thing, because I keep thinking of everything that came after it.
Yeah.
Like Under the Red Hood and everything. So I think of that character after the fact. You know, so it's almost hard to boil it down to like just a death in the family. You think about everything that happened after and how that impacted just the Batman origins and everything else that came after. So it's almost like I judge it based on all of that.
Yeah.
Because that's just what I grew up with.
Right.
You know?
Well, I think it goes back to one of the earlier statements is just how impactful this story is. Because you're right. At the time, it was a cool story, standalone. I mean, not standalone, but cool story. But Under the Red Hood came years later. I mean, a few decades later. So at that time, that's all they had. But looking at the overall impact, I mean, we've seen even in video games like the Arkham Knight game, that whole character, it ended up being Jason Todd. The death in the family is also adapted into that. Like it's, I mean, impactful on so many levels.
I think Jason Todd is one of the best characters in the Bat family for that reason, because he comes back and he is the way he comes back.
Yes.
Why didn't you do anything?
Yes.
Why is this?
He asked the question, the same questions we're asking now. He comes back to ask.
And even now, like he was presented when he came back, he was presented as a villain for the longest time.
Yeah.
And then he became part of the whole Batman family. He's an ally, but even to this day, that character is written with that angst of like he's still not over this.
Right.
He's I died.
Yep.
I died, and you did nothing. He's still not over that. So he still has that relationship with Bruce, which is crazy to see. The whole time he's thinking, my dad didn't
protect me, didn't save
to
me.
To see that mentality age that character, really interesting.
Yeah. What do you guys think about the whole mother aspect? Because Batman basically goes back to the Wayne Mansion, and he basically says, I'm sidelining Jason Todd. He robbed me. No more robbing right now. He's too angry, blah, blah, blah. Right. And then Jason ends up in his old neighborhood. Some old lady's like, hey, I know you. Come up here. I have this big box of all your family's memorabilia for some reason. Then he's on this path. He finds an address book. It's all like, news. If you're not from me, Adrian's era, like you might have to look up some of this stuff. Like, what's an address book? Right. Why don't they just go through his cell phone? But what happens is in his address book, he finds his old birth certificate and realizes the lady you thought was his mom's not his mom.
Put it,
yeah, exactly. They gave it to your neighbor for some reason. And of course, the mom's name is smudged out, right? And then he goes to the address book and finds similar initials. There's 3 women with the same initials, and he tracks them all down. I thought this was kind of stupid. I mean, I liked it up until the address book 3 people, Middle Eastern. Let's just go find them all.
Yeah, you know what? It's a serviceable plot.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it gets it done.
Yeah.
It's not like a big thing to me. I forgot about that part of the story. I forgot about him searching for his mom. The whole reason he's in the Middle East.
Right.
You know what I mean? If it feels like they wanted to get him there, and that was the backdrop.
That was the only way.
Right. Well, I mean, the big question is, if Batman hadn't been involved, right, would Jason Todd have died, even though his mom ended up, being someone who was in cahoots with the Joker?
And she turned on him.
Right. That was some heart wrenching shit.
Yeah.
Too. It's like, wow. I mean, it's bad. I mean, they didn't grow up together.
Right.
So she didn't really know him.
Yeah.
But just to like take out a child. I mean, it just happens to be your child.
And if you notice, it was once she realized he was Robin.
Right.
Because at first, like, he's leaving or whatever, and then he shows her that he's Robin, and she's like, oh, come here.
Right.
Like, once she realized that, because then it was going to screw up her plan. Right. So she was more worried about protecting, because she also had some dark, stuff she was hiding. They mentioned
she was skimming off the top.
Yeah, she was skimming off the top.
And stuff, so that's why, yeah.
And then originally he mentioned some experiments that went wrong in Gotham on young girls or whatever that she was performing. So she's got a dark past, too. But, dude, she's just, the minute she sees the Robin, says, oh, come here, and leads him to his death pretty much.
Right.
And then he still tries to save her.
Right.
That's the part, like, you're talking about heart wrench, like, okay, yeah, I get it. It's your son. You didn't raise him. And then once you realize he could, possibly catch you, screw up your whole plan, you turn him over to the Joker. Joker beats the shit out of him. He's kind of locked up. He straps your mom to this wall because he's just Joker being, to your point, he's being the Scorpion, dude. He's stinging the frog.
Yep.
And then Jason saves his mom, jumps on the bomb so that he takes most of it, and she doesn't. Dude, that's kind of twisted. Like, I'm sorry, I would have left her on the pole, bro.
But he spent so much time looking for her, and when you have something broken in you, you got this will to try to fix it. Right. And he was trying to fix this thing that up until that point he didn't even know existed. He thought his stepmom was his mom. Right. So now he finds out something completely different. Which me personally, I wouldn't have even pursued it. No. The person that I grew up with, that was my mom. Yeah. So that was it. So it's interesting that he had that much, interest and will and love for this person that he just met. To the point. So, I mean, it was a convenient story, the Middle East and the Joker showing up and the Batman and all that kind of stuff. But again, it goes back to, okay, once again, so ultimately this is Batman's fault because he didn't take out the Joker. He didn't secure him enough. He didn't do whatever he needed to do. Once again, the Joker is out doing Joker stuff and he escalates. So,
yeah. And I think, I say it's a serviceable plot to get him to the Middle East or whatever.
Yeah.
But, right. And I think it's I would have changed some things about it, but the way it builds up the emotion towards Jason Todd's death. And I don't know how he was written prior to this. All I know is all my frame of reference of that character is death of the family.
Yeah.
And the amount of you want to see Jason win.
Right.
He's going through this struggle. You see his mom is in this state, whatever.
Yeah.
And he's at the end of the line. He's getting the shit beat out of him, and you want to see him win. And the fact that he doesn't get that, it is an emotional ending to that character. Right. Which, for all intents and purposes, was the end of that character.
Right.
Many, many years. So
absolutely. That character in that form, anyway.
Yeah.
For a long time. You read Jason Todd prior to this?
No.
So you did not know how he was in the comic before Death in the Family? Yeah.
I just saw him really in Titans and, gave him the asshole stamp of approval.
Got it.
And, I just kind of hated him ever since. So when he died, I was like, that makes sense.
Yeah. What's interesting, too, is the way they did that with the hotline.
Yep.
And, dude, did you know that it was I think it was 70 votes? It was almost 50-50, the feedback they got. So they opened up a hotline. So those of y'all that don't know this that are watching, Jason Todd was not a popular character. They actually hated his portrayal because they made him a dick pretty much. He was an asshole. And DC had this idea. I guess they saw Eddie Murphy do it on sketch comedy show where he had a hotline. I forget something that he asked to do. We're going to do a hotline and determine if I do this or not, right? And then they got the idea from there, so they did a hotline where you could call in and vote, do we kill Jason Todd or not? And they said they got about 10,000 votes or something like that, and it was 72 votes that put him over the edge. Now, there is a version, because I guess they did this mid-story. Yep. So there is a comic. There is a comic where he doesn't die. Yep. It was printed, and I know there's a few people that have a copy of this. Never been released to public. Dude, that would be interesting to see, to see how different it was,
Yeah. I've seen that last image, the last page of that alternate ending where Batman's holding him. He's like, oh, my God, he's alive.
Wow.
And that's how it ends.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to think about how that would change
everything. Because there'd be no Red Hood.
That character would be so different now.
Yeah.
Batman would be so different now if that happened.
But how much anger or rage would Jason come out of that, knowing that, okay, not only wasn't killed. I was almost killed.
Right.
And you're still not going to do anything about this?
It's hard to imagine how that character and Batman as a whole would exist if that alternative ending happened.
And then you also have, the mother component, like my mom just served me up to the Joker.
Yeah.
I don't think with the fact that the issues that he had with Batman and Bruce, apparently, not knowing who his mother really was up until a certain point, or actually thinking that his mother was somebody else, and then at the end she's serving him up on a platter. I think that would have sent him over the edge to be what I think he should have been in the first place, which is a villain. So if he couldn't handle the first part of that, and Batman having to like sit him down, he most certainly if he would have survived, he would have had more baggage to carry.
Yeah. What's funny too is I was reading about the hate mail that DC got after this. Like there was one where it was like a grandmother said it was a call. It said, "You bastard, my grandchild loved Robin, and I don't know what to tell him." Like the people were upset about them killing a made up.
I like
character.
the idea of the grandma getting the comic in the mail, and she's got to vet it first.
Yep.
Right.
So she's avidly reading through Batman each month to make sure things check out.
Yep. And you brought up Dark Knight Returns, how that kind of started this change for this character. Well, Frank Miller came up with the idea of Joker killing Jason in that movie. Yeah. Is it in that story? Is that the one? Is there a Robin suit displayed in the case? Is that the first time we've seen it in that comic, or am I remembering that right? I know he mentions that Joker killed him.
I believe so.
Yeah.
Robin is briefly mentioned in that, and it's part of that whole trauma aspect. Frank Miller Batman is a dark Batman. He's like his elderly years, and he's got this long obscure history of the fight. And, it's just interesting how everything changed after that.
Yeah, I mean, it inspired a big part of this story. But yeah, we said it before. One of the most impactful stories. I would love to see a modern interpretation. Like we saw some of it with Titans, but I think even live action film. I mean, Robert Pattinson had said this. We talked about this a couple weeks ago, Adrian, where he said he'd love to adapt this into a live action film. Like, and he'd want the Batman too. He'd love for them to bring a Robin into it. And I don't think it doesn't need to be the second route. Like, it's for live action. They can change whatever. But why not? That would be cool to see for Batman 2 and 3. Having this brought in. He adapts a Robin that's then killed and see how this Batman deals with it. Because we're dealing with this is early on where he's going from being that, like he don't kill in this, but he will make it so you wish you were dead. And we're seeing him kind of tone that down, and how would this change? But I would love, whether it's there, whether it's somewhere else in the future, I would love to see this done right. And this one, it should be dark. They can film it in James Gunn garage. I'm okay with that.
I'm not sure that now, because the Robert Pattinson Batman is still very young.
Yeah.
He was year 2 in the movie.
Yeah.
He's still developing. I think we need to see him develop for like at least one more film. Yeah. So if we're gonna bring in the family, I think it should be like a 4-parter instead of the typical 3.
Yeah.
So give him Pattinson an opportunity to develop the Batman, then introduce the family in 3, and then kill them off in 4. I think that'll work better.
Yeah.
And just because it's just so much happening so quickly. So year 2 Batman, he adopts a kid, he grows up, he trains him, and he's all of a sudden he can do all this stuff. Then you kill him off. I think that'd be too much too quickly.
Yeah, it'd be quick. I mean, I would be okay if they introduced them in the second film and then killed them off maybe in the beginning or middle of the third. Now, also, remember these. I mean, the first movie was 3.5 hours. I don't think the next 2 are going to be shorter. So maybe, so if they spread it out, I guess I'd be okay there. I do hear what you're saying. I would also be okay if there was somewhat of a time jump between Batman and Batman 2.
Okay. I could buy that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I've heard rumors about Robin, and I'm with you. Like, if it's year 2, I don't know that we need to see Robin. But if we're going to see Robin, let's see this Batman maybe 5 years down the road a little bit.
I could buy that, yeah.
Because I know the Penguin show picks up right where this left off, but who knows where the next film is going to be.
Just a note on the book again. It's funny. They actually tried that again.
Yeah.
Damian Wayne.
Yes.
They've killed off in that capacity before. And I can't remember. I certainly don't think it got the same.
I don't know, because I don't even remember it. So they killed off Damian Wayne.
They built up a thing sort of that like that where he sacrificed himself.
Yeah.
And Damian was kind of that same character where everyone disliked him. They got the asshole stamp of approval.
Yes,
and that was so. And of course they ended up bringing him back, but it's weird. They're trying to. It's almost like they wanted to redo that.
Yeah.
They wanted to revisit that and do it that way in Gotham or whatever. They just wanted to revisit. So they use the set pieces at hand, but you kind of already have that. I
don't like that idea.
I enjoy the way Jason Todd exists in current form.
Right.
Now he's his own vigilante, and he doesn't have that same rule.
Right.
He has that Batman backing, that training, but he's totally fine making the call.
Oh, he has no problem
That's
killing.
an interesting character.
Yeah.
To have exist in that same family.
Yeah.
It's almost like I could almost see it as we know that Batman will never make that call, so they build in characters around him to make that call, which justifies Batman's existence. Because I think that if you see this, forever and ever and ever, Batman just letting people go, people will get tired of the character.
Yeah. And to go back to the Pattinson film a little bit, he does surround himself with people that will make that call. Like if you remember, there's a scene where him and Gordon are going into the I think it's the old Wayne Manor, which was an orphanage or whatnot. And he's like, no guns. And he's like, hey, that's your thing, dude. Like, I'm using my gun, bro. I don't know about you. Or even like the Catwoman, like they're kind of, he's into her a little bit. They're helping each other. And she has no problem just kicking the guy off of the roof. And he goes, almost risks his life to try to save him because of the no kill. Mm-hmm. So, to your point, I mean, this character going from Robin to now Red Hood, who will make that call, I think it just brings that much more intriguing to the whole Bat family, like, knowing that he's there as an ally, but he also, like, you don't want to lean on him too much because he's probably going to kill somebody.
Right? Yeah. And having that relationship exist now is very interesting. And there's a couple stories that I'm trying to think of that like touch on that just briefly. I wish they would explore that almost just that a little bit. How does that relationship exist? Yeah. Right. With the dad role model, right? With that harsh moral standing, I cannot kill. And then the son running rampant, he's like, I can do all that.
Right.
Because you won't.
Right.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and I mean, when you're saying that, I'm getting flashbacks of some of these Under the Red Hood panels, like when he first unmasked and when he has that question. And there's also a good callback. I wish I had that comic here with me, Under the Red Hood, where Jason is now beating Joker with the crowbar.
Yeah.
He's got him tied to a chair. And I don't know if you ever read that one, but that's another one
that came out 15 years after that.
Yeah, at least.
That's crazy. This is back when people Jason Todd died in comics, and that meant something.
Yeah,
like Gwen Stacy and Jason Todd died. It was the only.
Yeah, they weren't back a week later.
No, right. That is when that meant something, to be killed off in that capacity. That was a big thing.
Yeah. Now, would you guys want to read the version where he survived? Would you think they should ever put that out?
Yeah, I'd like to read it. It's interesting to imagine how that would exist now.
Yeah.
How that would change everything, because I don't know.
I'd like to check it out.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it would probably be interesting, but the first thing that would come to my mind is like why everybody's trying to keep Flash from going back and saving his mom.
Yeah.
What that ripple effect? What is it? Will it change up? The costumes. Are we gonna? Will we have the gray and blue costume in 2023 as opposed to the stealth fighter costumes now? Would Batman, be shot in James Gunn's garage, or would it be in the sun?
Yeah.
So it kind of brings up those things, so they would have to almost like split that off, which would be even more confusing than today. Yeah. So it would be interesting, like, to pull back the covers, but I don't think I would follow it.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, where would you, as we wrap this up, where would you place this? Like, would this be a top 5, a top 10 in your Batman comics? So, I mean, I got to, you think about all these. Long Halloween's got to be up there. Hush is up there. Dark Knight Returns, I know for you, is a big one.
It's definitely in my top 10.
Yeah,
it's definitely in my.
I would agree.
I'd say
definitely
top 10
top
easily.
10.
Yeah,
definitely.
I don't know about top 5.
I don't know about top 5 because I'm judging it based on the stuff that comes after it.
Yeah,
right.
You know what I mean? And the story itself, I don't know if I could put in my top 5, but it's definitely in the top 10.
And also the stuff. I mean, just the little tidbits on the side that you watch. That's not as a big ticket item as Hush, The Long Halloween, things like that. So there's just so much content around the Batman. But definitely top 10, and I agree, not necessarily top 5.
Yeah. No, I mean, because think about, like, would you say Dark Knight Returns is better than A Death in the Family?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'd say A Long Halloween's better. Year One.
Yeah.
I'd probably pick Death in the Family over Year One.
Yeah, Year One is I almost feel like that exists for me as like the poignant origin story.
Yes.
You know, so it definitely has its place in my lineup. I'd be hard pressed to choose a top 5. I definitely have contenders.
Mm-hmm.
You were to, I definitely have contenders, but that's a hard.
Yeah. I couldn't do it on the spot either. I don't know. I mean, like I even
I
go back
think about it. Yeah, I need to think
Dark
about
Victory. That's another great one.
Dark Victory is another great one.
Like I love Long Halloween, but Dark Victory's right.
And I almost include that in the same tier.
Yeah.
Which I shouldn't, but
you mentioned Hush. I mean, I know that gets kind of mixed, but I love Hush. I think that is one of and the artwork alone, like Jim Lee. Jim Lee's one of my favorite artists.
Yep.
I wish he did more Batman, honestly, but he has my favorite Batman is Jim Hush. Jim Lee's Batman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love. Actually, the same. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure Jeff Loeb wrote Hush and he wrote Long Halloween.
Yes.
I love his writing.
Yes.
I love his writing across the board. So I'm actually surprised. I don't know many people that don't like Hush.
Yeah.
That still exists for me in a very positive light. I mean, I'm sure Jim Lee is probably sick of it because everyone references it as like his best work.
Sorry, Jim, it is your best work.
and it took place, 20 years ago. So he's probably thinking I've done other stuff since then. But that's a very important story.
It was. Yeah.
I think the fact that we're talking about these things, 20 years later, and that it's so prevalent, in people's minds and stuff, and how impactful it is.
We're talking about these more than the newer stuff,
right? That alone speaks volumes, not only about the character, the development, the writers, everything around it, but again, that doesn't translate into the movie. So,
Adrian, was Death in the Family better than Black Adam?
Yes.
We finally got him, guys. We got him.
Yes. Hey, Buster.
Yes.
Yeah, listen up, Buster. Wow, that's the first one.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Keep a tally.
Yeah.
That's it.
And then you talk about the animated movies. Under the Red Hood is a great animated movie.
Oh, yeah.
I haven't seen that.
You haven't seen that?
I haven't seen
it's
the
great.
animated one.
You got to watch that. It's good.
Yeah. So, well, there you have it, dude. Any last words on Death in the Family? Like we said, top 10. I think the ambassador stuff was a little bit too much tomfoolery, but
I will say, as that dream of drawing Batman hasn't gone away. So I would like to touch on it at some point.
Yeah,
it is in the back of my head. If DC, if you're watching, if I ever get a chance, if you ever want to touch on it again, let me know.
Yeah,
and
Chris Boyle art.
Look him up. Art.
I'm so splintered, and I mean, there's so much stuff I would love to do. Like I said earlier, you asked me if I would draw a comic or whatever. I would think I would have to have like a Japanese animation kind. I would love to do a Superman, like a raw Superman. Like he got amnesia, woke up on a planet as a ruler, and just went dark. I mean, like an adult
like some Planet Hulk
version,
type.
Right, an adult Superman unleashed kind of a thing, because I think they placate his powers too much.
Yeah.
And I know, Chris, you kind of cringe when Superman versus the Hulk, but Superman, and depending on which one you're looking at, he has finite strength and powers and speed and stuff, and the Hulk does not. The Hulk has regenerative, so on and so on. But I still don't think they've ever been able to give Superman like his just show him at his rawest. Even when he went up against Darkseid in the animated version, and when he was trying to kill Darkseid was trying to kill Batman.
Yeah.
And Superman was like, this is a rare opportunity. I feel like I'm living in a paper bag and blah, 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 blah,
Yeah,
blah.
yeah.
And then he went soft at the end.
Yep.
And Darkseid kind of kicked his ass. But so I would love to do a version, a Japanese animated style Superman Unleashed. So that would be my dream.
DC, if you're watching, come on. Warner Brothers.
We should remake Death in the Family. We should do it ourselves, right? Come on, we'll fix all the plot holes. We'll create it like it was drawn in James Gunn's garage, so it's nice and dark. It will happen in Gotham. There'll be no ambassadors. There'll be no. I love how Joker just had this like missile sitting. This.
Right.
Like we forgot to mention that. Like, hey, Chris, I forgot to tell you, dude. I own this like truck with like missiles that right. Since I lost all my fortune, I'm gonna go sell it to some people overseas. You want to go with me?
I wouldn't be a fan of rewriting it, only because it's like a fixed in time moment.
Yeah.
And also at least I do. You shit on so many people about these directors coming in and spinning their version of. I'm all for like, okay, it was great. Let's leave it alone, but we can also do something else.
Yeah.
So I'm not necessarily a fan of rewriting it, but we can definitely do some more better things today.
Yeah, I would love to see a iconic updated version,
an alternate.
Alternate, absolutely.
Thing. Yeah.
Yep. Do you guys ever think like when I saw that truck, the missile thing? Do you ever think that like terrorists like look at these comics and be like, oh, that's a great idea?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, come on, you got missiles hidden in the middle of town inside of a water truck.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. Where are they getting these ideas from?
Where's the Joker? We gotta hire him.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Does he exist? It was kind of funny though, seeing the Joker dressed up in the whole garb.
Oh,
that
was kind of
And I do, to your point, I love that. That's another great panel where he rips off the suit and he's got like the venom or the laughing gas, whatever the hell it is. Good old Joker, man. Always got the laughing gas. Always. But yeah, so there you have it. That's our deep dive into Death in the Family. Like we said, top 10 all-time comic Batman, some iconic artwork, some iconic shots. But again, if you want to see I think the best portrayal of that death scene, watch Titans. Watch the first episode.
Yeah.
Well, there you have it, dude. That's it for this week. Next week, we'll be back with our semifinals in King of Comics.
Yep.
I'm sure there'll be a lot of good, fun news. Maybe we do a little review on the first night next week. Now you got the comic. We'll review that.
Yep.
We have a fun episode. So, when will Chris be back? As you're asking right now, I don't know if you are, but Chris, you're going to come back whenever you want, number one. But we are doing a long Halloween deep dive. We're going to do a whole episode on a long Halloween.
Okay.
That is that'd be a top 5 for me.
That is a top 5.
I'm sure of that.
Absolutely top 5.
And Adrian, you've watched the films.
Yep.
You've not read this yet, though.
No, I have not.
And I'm
You
gonna
have not read The Long Halloween?
I have not read The Long Halloween. I've seen it, the animated, but I have not read it.
Okay. Wow, I've never heard of anyone watching.
You never met someone like that who's never
watching it first and then that's going to be interesting.
Right.
That's
I consume DC animation so much.
Yeah.
Like I look for it.
Yeah.
And I don't peruse the comic book aisles that much, so I didn't even know it was a comic first. So that's my take on it.
Got it.
Okay.
Now you've read. I mean, probably. I know you read more comics than me. I don't know about Chris, but have you read more Marvel than DC?
Definitely more Marvel than DC.
Got it. And I've read more Batman than anything.
More Batman than anything else.
Yeah.
Yep. So all these I know. I mean, if you went through some iconic Marvel, so a lot of them I'd be like, I don't know, dude. I mean, X-Men stuff. Yeah.
I've read a lot of Iron Man, Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
Not even so much Captain America. Not so much Spider-Man.
Yeah.
X-Men. So Iron Man, Fantastic Four, X-Men were my big 3.
Got it.
When I got started, mostly because of the artist.
Yeah.
John Byrne.
Yeah.
That was the man to me. And then I started picking up Superman because he started doing some Superman stuff.
So you'd follow the artist.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
See, I love speak of Jim Lee, the Jim Lee X-Men comics I thought were great. And X-Men had some really good stories. But probably more Batman than anything. But yeah, Long Halloween, top 5. Dude, it's probably top 3 maybe. I don't know.
And I am huge on the art of comics. And Tim Sale's art. Like as a kid, I loved like Jim Lee, the super detailed stuff. And then I got older and studying comic art to the degree that I've done, I am in love with Tim Sale's art.
How would you describe his style?
it's hard because I'll get into comment. It's the only thing I'll argue about online when I see someone diss Tim Sale, and I've done it before.
Don't do it.
Yeah, they'll be like, oh, it looks like he's not trying. It looks like they think it's too simple. It's not.
Yeah.
Like there's something so complex about the compositions that he's able to make, and it is a shame we lost him. And
he passed earlier this year, right?
Yes, yeah, and it is the Long Halloween exists perfectly in its current state.
They're very like almost cartoonish, right?
Almost cartoonish, but
exaggerated the features.
Yeah, his understanding of how to balance like the drama in a heavy shadow, and then with your negative space, it is crazy.
Yeah,
crazy.
This looks like it was drawn in James Gunn's garage.
So that's why I'm so interested to hear.
It's dark.
I'm so interested to hear going from the animated thing to the book. I think that's going to be a really interesting perspective to have on it.
You've not seen the animated movies for these. I recommend checking them out. They're great. They're the style is, I love the style for those. You talking about the art style, and it's gritty. They didn't try to copy the comic.
No,
which I'm glad they didn't. But their textures and the grittiness to it and the overall tones, like it's just a really, really good color palette that they used. And the voice acting I thought was great. Yeah. And it was one of those where they stuck to the comic story enough. There were some subtle changes, but there was a lot of like iconic comic panels that we then got to see created in animation, which were great. So I thought it was handled well. I mean, if I had to pick a favorite, I would lean towards the comic just because I've read it so many times. It's kind of got a special place with me. But they're neck and neck, dude. There's some times where you see them on screen like, God, why do they even like The Killing Joke? Yeah, the worst DC Batman animated movie that I've had the pleasure or lack thereout of watching was The Killing Joke. What do they say? The other thing that white people say, they screwed the pooch. They screwed the pooch with that one. But yeah, this would be I'd say top 3, dude. Definitely up there.
Maybe I'll come back and go on that one with you guys.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah, it'd be great. So that will be, a couple weeks. We'll do that. We'll probably drop that the week of Halloween. So that will be a straight up long Halloween edition.
Orange lights in here.
We will change the orange.
Spooky episode.
It will be a little spooky.
Hey, we could do that.
So, well, there you have it. Batman Day or Batman Month, as we say here on Only Comics. Yep. That's our show. We'll be back at you next week. Chris, thanks for coming in. Y'all know where you can find him. Chris Boyle Art. Adrian, thanks for coming in as always.
Always.
And guys, thanks for joining. Thanks for watching, downloading. We appreciate the support. We appreciate the comics, even though we don't agree with some of them, about half of them, But we're here for it, dude. This is, our podcast, Chris, is like we go on this ride of the multiverse every week, okay? This is the multiverse of stupidity, multiverse of comic news, the multiverse of tomfoolery. We travel it, me and Adrian.
That's it.
We're like a dynamic duo. We're a trio this week, and we're fighting stupid opinions. We're fighting your stupid comments. We're fighting Andy Muschietti and the Flash movie. We're fighting all this stuff.
Give me all your stupid opinions.
That's it.
Not only are we fighting, but we're also casting. We're predicting. And at the end of the day, we're here for you, producers. In case you don't have any good ideas, come to us. We got some great ideas. We can steer you in the right direction.
We got you. Well, there you have it. Well, that's it for this week, guys. Don't miss us every Monday, 5:30 Eastern Time. The podcast drops. Hit the subscribe button. Check out the rest of our content, and we'll see you next week on Only Comics, where we discuss comics and only comics and sometimes some other stuff. We'll see you.